Not a day goes by that I don't see some story about a woman who has a career, maybe a doctor, a nurse, a police officer, whether or not you think they should be, but they quit because they found out that doing OnlyFans makes them more money, or at least they hope it does. But they promote these stories like crazy. And I wonder if it's because they actually do make money, it actually is a trend, or these media companies know it's sensational and people are going to want to click on it to hear a story about a woman who used to be a lawyer, but now she just wants to get naked on camera and put things in her body. Whether or not that's true, there certainly is a debate around whether or not porn should be legal, whether or not X should allow it. Actually, Ye got flagged as not safe for work because he was posting adult content. And, how we're going to deal with this. There's a lot of people who want to ban it outright, which is interesting to see. That's become fairly prominent in the Trump era with MAGA and all this stuff. People are saying just make it illegal. Now you've got a wave of these laws where they're forcing these websites to verify the age of individuals, and they're fighting it. They're complaining about it. Now, that's just weird to me, because imagine as an adult bookstore, and they're like, hey, we shouldn't have to ask those 3 kids in a trench coat if they have ID or not. They can just walk in. Look, if your website's doing adult content, I mean, we should have a conversation about how we protect children. But that's the debate today. Is this bad for relationships? Is it bad for society? What's going on with OnlyFans? We got a couple of people joining us to have this debate. Let's start with this fellow over here, Myron. What's up?
Hey, what's up, man?
Who are you? What do you do?
Myron Gaines, one half of the Fresh Fit podcast. I also run my own show called The Debrief, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. I'm Myron Gaines X on YouTube and Rumble. And yeah,
You're the anti-porn guy.
Yes. I don't like, I think porn is not good. But
all right, well, Candace is here. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Candace Horbacz, host of the Chatting with Candace podcast, was in the adult industry from 2011 to 2017.
So would you consider yourself to be on the pro-porn side?
That's I don't like saying pro-porn because I feel like that's making the assumption that there's no issues with it whatsoever and that it doesn't need some regulation and oversight. But I don't think it should be illegal by any measure.
And then just to make it as crazy as possible, Ian is here.
Man, I don't think porn's a monolith. It's like saying porn is good or porn is bad. It's like saying TV is good or TV is bad. There's some porns where it's just brutal, violent, horrible things you would never want to show someone. And then there's some where it's just erotic love, where 2 people meet, crazy orgasm, and then they're smiling and laughing at the end. And so I think it's important, especially for young people, to understand the difference in that stuff, if that's how they're getting their visualizations of what sex is like.
Well, my friends, before we get started, head over to castbrew.com and buy coffee. Don't buy Ian's Graphene Dream. Yo, homie sold, you sold what, 700 bags this week?
I think so, yeah.
Ian, you're selling too much coffee. Guys, go buy Stand Your Grounds. We've sold a couple hundred bags of this stuff. Stand Your Grounds is really good. A lot of people like Appalachian Nights, which inadvertently became our flagship coffee brand. It wasn't intended to be, but it became just because it was the best. People started buying it more and more and more, and word of mouth made it big. But Stand Your Grounds is a similar flavor profile, but it's a medium roast. So check out castbrew.com, buy our coffee. And I'm kidding. Ian's Graphene Dream is the most popular coffee we have now. I think it's because of the picture of Ian becoming enlightened and flying or whatever.
You got that graphene hexagonal lattice in the background. It's also low acidity. And look at the color profile. Light blue to purple. Beautiful. Jessica's just a genius.
Ian sold over a year's worth of coffee in a month.
It's tasty, too.
So we order these custom colored bags, and we ordered a year's worth based on our traditional sales, our typical amount. It's 5,350. We're gone in a month. We had to reorder, but it takes 6 weeks to get them because we normally don't sell that much.
I'm going to get you a cup of coffee right now, Myron. Do you want coconut water or anything with it?
Nah, no.
All right, I'll be back.
Black.
Pause. Get rolling, baby.
Let's get started. And, Candace, you're saying you don't want to say pro-porn because you think there's problems with it.
Yes.
But your position would be that people should be allowed to make and distribute it. I mean, that seems fairly simple, but where are we at?
What do you mean, where are we at?
Well, like, what's the issue, right? Do we want to say ban porn?
Well,
is that what you're saying?
Well, I'll let her give your position, and then you can. Yeah.
So I think like the thing that's trending right now on X is ban porn, and everyone's trying to make this really big political statement about it, and just to make it illegal outright. And I don't know if that's really well thought out in the sense that if you start with one thing and you use obscenity as the reason to get rid of it, then that's going to trickle down into other things. If you're using the Miller test to establish whether or not it should be protected under freedom of speech, there are a lot of other things that could possibly fail that absolutely shouldn't.
What's the Miller test?
So it's basically to establish...
Three-pronged, right?
Yeah, so it
Three-prong
has
test.
to be presented in front of like a reasonable average person, and if they see that it's like if they would consider it obscene or not, then by community standards essentially, and then they also look at if it provides any other value, scientific, political, artistic, and there's like one other category. So basically, it has to apply to the community as at a reasonable standard. Twofold, and then also present like some kind of value.
Oh, so
right?
everybody would want to ban it then.
Well, no, so it actually passes. So that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, and then
The threshold for obscene is really high. That's
Right.
why.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't
Well,
get banned.
let's mention this too. Like Ian made the point that it's not a monolith.
right.
So it depends on the porn you're showing the person.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So traditional vanilla hetero porn by default is probably going to pass the test. So when you say ban porn, are you saying like the really extreme stuff at kink? Because I would probably be on board with like a lot of that should probably not be legal. Because once you introduce money, I don't know that you can really consent to certain levels of abuse. You know what I mean? So when we say porn, I think we need to kind of narrow down like what do we mean by porn? Because is that also erotica? Is that nudes? Is that solos? Like the span is so vast that I think you have to say like what is porn? Is it a magazine? Is that still porn?
Wait, hold on. So you're saying that if like, two people are going at it, just regular old vanilla, people don't consider that obscene?
No, because it's a natural behavior. So the obscenity part would be like, oh, that it's getting filmed or that someone's getting money for it. It's the act. So that's the reason that like children are protected, right? Like that is obscene. It is though. You can look at the rulings.
You put two people out in the middle of the street and have them go at it, and that's going to be obscene.
No, but it's not saying that public sex is okay because that's not okay. That's illegal. It's saying is sex being recorded between a man and a woman?
It's public
is that
sex.
obscene? It's not public because it's on the internet. It's not happening.
That's public.
It's not public. You have to log onto your phone. How would you say that's public? You're paying to
Children
enter the
can get
space.
access to it.
They sure can, yeah. And that's
bookstores are public.
But do you like who should be in charge of access when you get to that point? Like, is it the parents' responsibility? What I see is a lot of you don't think so at all.
I think like adult bookstores, we have laws where it's like you got to show ID if you want to get in. The idea that we're going to be like, nah, kids on the internet, you can look at whatever you want. Wait, why? Since when?
Those adult bookstores, though, you wouldn't have to show ID if you were like a 50-year-old man with a beard.
Sure.
But on the internet, it's blanket. They can't. No, I don't think so. It's a waste of people's time. And I don't want to give the government my data when I go.
Then don't get access to it. You want to buy booze? They card you either way. The law is that if you
they don't card 57-year-old men.
if you're going to let me finish, the laws in most places said if you appear under 60.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of places where like the casino over here. It says if you appear 30.
I see 30 a lot.
Yeah, it says if you appear to be under 30, you will be carded. And there's some liquor stores. The age is different in different states, but they set the super high threshold. If you're a 40-year-old man, you get carded. We do this to protect kids. I don't know, Myron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Miller test that she's referring to, it's a three-pronged test. Basically, obscenity is like the main factor that distinguishes if it's going to be allowed or not. And, as we progress as a society, that obscenity has become a higher and higher threshold to reach. And most standard heterosexual porn, like she was saying, is considered legal in the United States. Now, when it comes to my stance on porn, should it be completely illegal? I would like that, but ideally, I know that this is a capitalistic country, and the First Amendment is a thing, and you got the freedom of expression, et cetera, to a degree. So my thing is, I think it needs to be heavily regulated, and I don't think it should be on X at all. I think X is more of a political discourse app. It's an app to create, have a discussion with ideas. So I think if we are going to have pornography, though I strongly detest it, I think it needs to be heavily regulated and taxed, and we need to put barriers on it where it's not easily accessible and as ubiquitous as it is now in society.
So would you say the same when it comes to like any kind of like extreme violent content? Should that come off as well? Because I would argue that porn can be political, and it is because like everyone's talking about it. So in its nature, it is political. So if
porn is political?
I think so, but if not,
also,
because it's part of, we've fought to get it protected under the First Amendment, and that's why it's trending right now, is like whether or not that does qualify as freedom of expression, freedom of press, and ultimately it's kind of like it's showing how much sovereignty and agency you have over your own body.
Yeah, I see your perspective, but I think, putting porn on the same level as like freedom of speech, where we're actually having real discourse that is important, I think that's not on the same level. I think porn would be at a lower level there where it doesn't necessarily deserve the same level of protection as political discourse, because political discourse is important. That's why our founding fathers founded this country. I don't think they were standing around thinking like, dude, we're really trying to beat our meat without problems. Like,
Founding fathers had a bunch of pictures, and it's like, and considering the First Amendment, look at this.
They weren't traversing the Atlantic Ocean, dying through scurvy, saying like, we need to whack off to porn. Like, I think for them it was like, we got to get away from this monarchy and be able to have political ideals and be able to have this marketplace of ideas. So, like, though I see your perspective on pornography being a form of expression, I don't think it rises to the same level and needs of protection as political discourse and speech, right? Like for me, for example, like I'm real big on we need to protect free speech. I'm like as close as you could be to a free speech maximalist or absolutist, but I'm not a free image absolutist, right? If that makes sense. So I don't think, at least for majority of porn, it's not artistic or political in any way. It's strictly erotic, for financial gain, typically for people to get horny or whatever.
Well, for sure, I would actually agree with that part. But where I would say that it is political, is the right to exist. So it typically is the canary in the coal mine. It's like the first thing to go because no one wants to defend it. Even I'm here. I'm like, I don't want to say I'm pro porn, right? Like it's not something that people really champion or get behind for a whole host of reasons.
Oh, so you're saying its existence is political in nature, not the actual content being political.
Both can be true, but more its existence.
I don't know about you, but I've never seen a girl sucking D and talking about Democrats and Republicans, man.
There's actually some. Actually.
Come on. Rule 34, bro. If it exists, there's porn of it.
Oh,
yes.
God.
Yeah, I promise. There
really?
are. Yes.
That's where we are?
Don't you know the rules of the internet?
There's cancer ads. I actually shot a cancer ad back in the day.
What the hell?
Yep.
Yeah, but like,
what happened to good old classic stuff like the pizza guy shows up?
man. Like, let's be honest here, though. Like, are people really logging into Pornhub to like figure out who they're gonna vote for? Like, let's see if the Democrats have a better video. Oh, I'm gonna vote for whoever puts out the best porn. Like,
wait. I gotta be honest.
Come on.
Everybody was sharing those pictures on X of like big busty Trump supporting women.
Yeah.
And they were all super hot.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris, she didn't have none of that.
Look. I guess that's a strange niche that I might not be familiar with, but I think for us to sit here and say like we need to protect porn that is political in nature, well then all these companies are going to start wearing MAGA hats when they smash and stuff. Like
No.
it's
They
like,
do.
Well, no.
Dude.
I'm saying all of them, not this niche porn.
The rules of the internet. Are you familiar? This goes back to the ancient lore, the deep magic as it was written. Rule 34 states, if it exists, there is porn of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, now I'm realizing that. But no, I mean, I see your perspective where you're saying like porn in itself is a political thing because it's a hot rod, right? Mm-hmm. Should we ban it? Should we not? But I think like to say, I don't think it deserves the same level of protection as like us having political discourse where we're discussing ideas, right?
Well, there is like different categories of protection, right? In political speech and political the ability to criticize your government is like the number one thing.
Paramount. That's the reason this country was founded.
Right, and everything kind of trickles down from there. But I'm saying it does need to be included because if you look at any like oppressive government, it always starts with obscenity or anyone that's like kind of criticizing the prominent religion.
You're worried about like the slippery slope where they take that away and you give them an inch, they take a mile. I could see your stance for that, but I don't think porn would be that impetus to like for that to happen, right? I think I'd be more concerned when they start like silencing people for being critical of other topics that might be controversial.
But the famous poem, first they came for the trade unionists, then they came for the porn stars and the whores. As it goes,
it always starts with the porn. They're like, we're gonna censor this because it's obscene, and then most people are like, absolutely, like book bannings, we should do that, and it ends up. I think it was in Russia specifically where it ended up was you couldn't have any books that were in Hebrew, like that became illegal.
But so I don't accept this argument. This slippery slope argument. People make it all the time.
Not Hebrew, I'm a fan of that.
So the
all right.
So the arguments we get right now all the time from particularly the anti-establishment. I don't want to necessarily say the right. The right is basically the anti-establishment. It wasn't always this way. The argument's always we can't use this power because then they will use this power. And it's like, bro, let me just tell you right now, evil people are doing horrifying evil things. We want to stop. The idea that we would let them continue doing horrifying evil things because maybe more evil will happen later is an afterthought. How about this? We know what we think is good and what we think is bad. So we say, this thing is bad and should have restrictions on it. And if later they come back and say, oh yeah, well now we're going to do even worse thing, we say, no. Right? So the way I describe it is the slippery slope moves in every single direction. The argument that we can't regulate or restrict porn because heavens, they might come back and censor something else. It's like, okay, well, now they're giving kids porn, right? Which slippery slope do you want to take? And I got to be honest, how about we just try and fight to defend the area where we are? That means if a kid wants to go to an adult bookstore, you're not going to let him in. Check for an ID. You want to have a website where it's going to have this stuff? Okay, fine. Got to have an ID. Got to prove your age. X is a public platform people can access. Restrictions. So in order to, if there's an account is flagged as not safe for work, it's got porn or other adult content or extreme violence, it is blocked off unless you can verify your age and you get a verification check with your ID and all that stuff. How about we do that?
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with that. Again, I'm very anti-porn. I think it's toxic. I think it's extremely problematic, especially nowadays where it's extremely influential. You got women running around saying, I'm going to bang 100 dudes in a day, 1,000 dudes in a day. That sets a very bad precedent because what ends up happening, right, is women by nature are just very easily influenced. This is why advertisers target women significantly compared to men. So if we got women doing stuff like this, deplorable things like this, they think, well, I can make a bunch of money going on OnlyFans, not knowing that like the average female makes like $100 a month on OnlyFans. And then what do? They end up destroying their life in the process. So my issue also is that the ubiquity of porn is also created negative cultural ramifications where, again, I love America. This is a capitalist country, and I understand people being capitalists, which is why I'm saying, like, okay, maybe making it illegal might be, antithetical to our capitalism mantra, but I do think that we need to be as close as possible to making it illegal and just putting severe restrictions on it so that we don't influence the public, especially young, impressionable women, into getting into this career field.
We ban drugs. We're capitalists, but we say, hey, like, you can't sell heroin.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, and I used to work in narcotics too. I mean, but that's a whole other
But does that work?
Conversation.
No one's doing heroin anymore?
Well, there's interesting arguments that seeps over into the abortion debate. Mm-hmm. So, obviously you got one side, the Democrats, they're being like, Whoopi Goldberg holds up a hanger and she's like, we are so close to this. Seamus Coughlin, good friend, he made the argument, so what? He said, so what? The restriction of it takes most of it away and some people will still break the law. There's ways to restrict and regulate things to prevent black markets and violent crime, but making something free, available, and ubiquitous increases its use and can
that's the problem.
Problems.
Yeah, and that's the main problem is that it's easily accessible until the states did this whole thing. Well, people can just use VPNs, but yeah, the ubiquity of porn was the biggest problem, and how influential it is, especially when this like internet culture. Little girls used to grow up and little girls used to say, I want to grow up and be an astronaut. Now they want to get their ass pegged. Like it's completely changed, man. Where it's like we've deviated so much into degeneracy that it's wild. And pornography has been like the Trojan horse that's like kind of led that charge.
Let me ask you, do you think, I mentioned in the opening of the show that there's this trend, whether it's organic or just highlighted, where women are quitting their careers to do porn instead. Would you consider that to be a good thing? Or not, or neutral, or bad?
I don't know how true a lot of those stories are, to be honest. Especially when they start showing the numbers that these women are making, it doesn't add up. So I agree that there's a huge issue with women that are saying like I'm making all of this money because it's delusional. There's 500 people in the entire world that are making 6 figures a month on OnlyFans, and I happen to know like most of them. So the chances of like you signing
only 5.
up, 500.
Oh, 500.
500. Okay. And there's about like 5 million creators on that platform. So like those aren't really great numbers.
But that's not the story. The story, the story particular, there was one story a few months ago, and was a nurse, but she does like 3,000 or 4,000 a month on OnlyFans. So she quit her job because she was saying this is not a woman who has a staff like some of these bigger creators. And she's like, I think she was like late 30s. She just said, I was making, $50,000 a year as a nurse. I make that much doing OnlyFans, and I set my own schedule and work when I feel like it.
So my issue with that is if you're not doing it for like a different reason other than money or fame, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt, especially if you already have a career that has longevity. There's very little longevity in that career. So to leave something for something so fickle doesn't seem very wise to me. And I mean, that decision does have a lot of gravity to it. It closes a lot of doors, and there are so many like second and third order of consequences that come from that decision. There's no way you have the foresight to know. So I think for women that are just doing it for that, it doesn't.
Well, it's
make
because
sense.
we don't shame women anymore. You know what I mean?
I assure you, go on my feed. I get shamed hourly.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Like, yeah, you get shamed because of your past, and obviously it's the internet. But I would argue that we've removed a lot of the social training wheels that kept women in line, right? And we can talk about feminism and how that's influenced it. But, the problem is that we really don't shame women for being hoes. That's just really what it comes down to. Yeah, you might get some comments here and there on Instagram, but if you look at the greater picture, we absolutely reinforce bad behavior from women. We tell women to date as many guys as possible. We tell them to put off family and a marriage. We tell them to, extract value from men while simultaneously not giving any value back. We have a very gynocentric society that really allows women to behave poorly with zero consequence. But the problem is that we don't tell them the truth that behaving poorly like this is going to hurt you in the long run. And that's the issue, because they get to 30, 35, can't find a guy. And then they're like, what happened? Like, everyone told me I can find a man at the end of the road. And they were lied to. And that's why I think one of feminism's biggest failures is it lies to women.
There's this conversation about, is it good for women or any human to exploit their looks for money? And that usually ends up being a pretty empty
looks
life.
is different than...
Acting's I felt like a prostitute in the entertainment industry. Like, they're like, just shut up, look pretty. Here's your paycheck. Don't talk about what you really believe. I'm like, I say this is good for you, and it's not. I'm like, okay, it's gross. Okay, that argument there, is it good for young women? Probably not in the long run. But then now what's going to happen is AI is coming in. Deep fake porn is where it's at. Women aren't even going to have to become porn stars to have that stuff everywhere when you go online. Like, I've seen the hottest VR women, like fake digital avatars, deep fake humans.
I bet you can even find Marge Simpson.
She was so hot. I'm like, it's not a real girl, dude.
Marge?
So, like,
Let me tell you this. Go ahead.
He's like 80.
Well, then it's like another discussion of, should these images be allowed to be on social media and prevalent, is another conversation. And is it healthy for humans to do?
This is a really good point, because to your point about gynocentrism and what society is telling women to do, already we are seeing women be removed from the porn industry completely because of AI. It is now becoming guys. Like, I mean, come on. Everybody knows the story from Andrew Tate. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was saying that he would go on the messages and talk dirty to guys to make money. Yo, with the internet and now with AI, there's some dude who's going on OnlyFans and he's like, you're so pretty. And it's some guy sitting there and be like, yeah, tell me more, babe.
So let me because this is like my wheelhouse.
Just dudes
right
getting
here.
other dudes off. That's pretty gay.
So this is what I've realized from analyzing the sexual marketplace, modern women, modern men, etc. The bottom line is this. Feminism has created a very unstable environment for men and women to create families and, children, etc. The nuclear family has been destroyed through feminism. But what's ended up happening through feminism is women are earning more money than ever before. They're more successful, more educated than ever before. So women no longer need the provisioning and security that a man used to provide in the 1950s. They can go ahead and make their own money and, their own success. So since this institution exists, women's standards have went up. Well, here's the problem. Their standards have went up while they're simultaneously still promiscuous and not necessarily worthy of a marriage or a long-term relationship. So what's happened is we have a lot of guys that are quite involuntary celibate, having a tough time meeting women, getting girlfriends, etc. So what do men do if they have a reproductive problem? They solve for it, whether it's pornography, it's, fleshlights, or, you're talking about this AI, etc. What I predict is, if this continues on, where young men are being ostracized from dating and modern women in general, because modern women just don't see a majority of modern men as viable candidates, it's going to be what's going on right now. Top 5 to 10% of guys get all the girls, and the guys, the nerds, and Revenge of the Nerds, they're going to go ahead and start getting sex robots. And we're already seeing this happening right now. Lamar Odom went viral for getting a sex robot that represent, I think, what was his ex-wife's name? So one of the Khloe Kardashian, right? And everyone was like, what the hell? This is weird. I think that was a marketing ploy. But the main point I want to say is this. We already see guys disconnecting from the dating marketplace. We already see guys addicted to porn. We already see guys playing video games all the time. Because a lot of guys, the juice isn't worth the squeeze to deal with women that, quite frankly, are hoes. So they're going to go ahead. I think this robot industry is going to take off within the next 50 years. And I know people are like, Myron, what are you talking about? Well, keep in mind, 10, 15 years ago, if you met a girl on the internet and you said, oh yeah, we met on the internet, people would laugh at you, right? But now, if you say, oh yeah, I met her on Tinder, I met her on Instagram, that's way more viable now. It's socially acceptable in just 10 short years. So I think with robots, that's going to probably be the future for a lot of guys, because we got an enormous amount of men that have a reproductive problem.
Bro, I think this is the end of feminism.
It might be.
The issue is that, as we're seeing with gender ideology and with AI porn and OnlyFans, men are better at being women than women are. And I mean that from a capitalist financial standard. Andrew Tate, I got to be fair, because I don't actually know a whole lot about what he was doing with like the apps and the girls and the dating stuff. But he's just an example people often cite. So I probably shouldn't cite that. I'll just say there are guys that run companies that use either they start by getting their own models to model, but they run the business, they do the chats, they hire other staff to do the chats. Then you've got like these males who identify as women winning female awards and being propped up on TV shows. Women love men. They love it when men be women and they give them awards for it. Men prefer to get their proclivities satiated by other guys who are running the business because those guys know how to do it. The end result of what we're seeing right now is women are not going to be able to get jobs. They're not going to be in porn. They're not going to be at the top of industry. It's going to be a bunch of guys just running literally everything for each other.
This is why I say, like, feminism actually hurts women. Like, it's the Trojan horse that actually hurts them, because what ends up happening with feminism is you've inadvertently given all the leverage to the highest status guys. Are they going to settle down with a woman? No. I can get all these girls. I'm going to just have the player lifestyle. So a majority of women end up dealing with a certain small percentage of guys. They think they're entitled to that type of guy, but what they don't realize, you can only sleep with that guy. You can't necessarily get him in a relationship. And you touched on men in the chat rooms, etc. This is a very interesting phenomenon. When I have girls on my show, one of the questions they asked that always perplexed me was, what do men want? And I kind of had like a eureka moment, because as a man, for you to be successful with women, you have to know what women want. You have to be able to take them out on a date, be attractive, charming, dress well, do something. You have to do something right as a guy to get laid, right? We can all agree to that. But with women, you don't necessarily have to understand men to get men as a woman. Be pretty. Guys are going to come up to you. Do you really need to understand them? No.
I got to pause you there. Women don't even need to be pretty.
There you go. I'm being middle ground here.
My point is,
but it's easy mode for them. Is my point.
You said that 85% of the guys are getting the women. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
50,
a minority. Minority.
A minority, like 50% of guys are getting all the women.
Yeah.
And so when you actually look at dating trends, that means women who are considered to be on the below average side still get above average guys.
Absolutely.
Because guys are just like, I'll take it.
But I don't think...
And that fucks them up, because what I've noticed with women when it comes to mating, it's very difficult for women to go backwards. So if they're accustomed to a certain type of guy, that's my type, it's very difficult for them to go backwards and get with a guy that has less status, less income potential, not as attractive. The only time I've ever seen women like say, you know what, I'll lower my standards, is when they start to get older and they know that they can't command the same level of authority in the sexual marketplace.
I don't think that if a girl doesn't understand men, I don't think she'll have any kind of long-term success with a guy, because a guy really wants a woman that understands him.
Yeah, so...
No. I
was going to say, like...
You were saying...
A lot of guys just happy to get pussy, man.
Well, for short term. But, like, if you want a 20-year relationship with someone, they better understand you.
It's a yes and a no. Like, it is true, she does need to, but there are many circumstances where guys naturally have these behaviors that women like, and there's women who naturally have these behaviors men like, and they don't know why that is. So I've talked about this with, like, the red pill movement. The corporate press, feminists, women in media would rag on any guy who would go to these red pill communities. But let's break down what this is. There was like the pickup artists, dating game stuff. So I knew people who were, like, I knew this guy, he was short, chubby, bald, wore glasses, felt like a nerd. And so he started reaching out to these like guru types, and he wanted to learn how to actually be attractive. He had no idea what to do. And he gets mocked relentlessly, not him personally, but they attack him for doing this. And I remember talking to some like feminist reporter in New York, and she was like, it's so scummy, it's so creepy. And I said, let me pause for a second. Here's a guy who's clearly a loser, right? In your mind, if you saw him at a bar, you wouldn't walk anywhere near him. He doesn't know how to talk to women. He doesn't know how to meet women. And so he said, let me try and figure out how to be better. And you're attacking and insulting him for it. And I was like, and if you ever actually listen to what these guys tell you, sure, you might say it's creepy that they're trying to sleep with women or whatever. Every guy's doing that. So you end up with a world where there are guys. I knew a guy in LA who was 5'3", chubby, he had a little bit of a beard. He had no problem getting women. He was a smooth talker, salesman, making six figures, and he could sell ice to an Eskimo, man. This guy, and he had no problems. He was super confident, and I was like, if you know how to play the cards you're dealt. This other guy who's in a similar position has no idea what to do, and he's creepy. He walks up to him and he goes, "You're beautiful," and they're like, "Okay, this is weird." What do these dating guys tell him to do? They say, "Stop doing that." And one of the first things he learned, it was fascinating. He was like, they told me just to talk to them like I talk to my guy friends. And I was like, do you mean they told you to talk like a normal person talking to a regular person? And he was like, what he had been approaching women as if they were a different species. I was like, why would you rag on a guy for doing that? Why would you rag on a guy for trying to understand how to actually be less creepy, how to be more confident, and how to say the things that are appropriate in social situations? So ultimately, my point there, as to what you're saying, Ian, is some guys naturally know how to do this, whether they're tall, short, attractive, ugly, whatever. And because I said this to this woman, I was like, so because a guy just naturally has this charisma and these behaviors without actually studying it, that's fine. But somebody who wants to learn and be better, that's creepy. There's a lot of circumstances where a woman doesn't understand a man at all, but she behaves in a way that men like.
Well, okay, the controversial take here. That's because women don't respect self-improvement, right? So with women, right, everything is given to them. Their beauty is given to them. Their value is given to them.
I don't think so.
That's fine. You can disagree. But the point is that women have dating on easy mode. They don't necessarily have to accomplish anything to get sexual access to men. She could be 18 years old, attractive, etc. Now, do women need to self-improve to the same level as men to get sexual access? Not at all. So with women, if a guy goes ahead and says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to Toastmasters, learn how to speak better. I'm going to go ahead and go to a dating boot camp and learn how to talk to women. They're going to look at that as awkward and strange because that's a foreign concept to women because men naturally come to them, but they don't even understand the privilege they have because privilege is invisible to those that have it.
I don't think you're wrong completely, but I'll try this. Candace, how much time did you spend this morning getting ready for the show?
30 minutes.
What about you?
Quickly. 5 minutes.
So I saw this funny post. There was
here's the thing. Her sexual access is contingent upon her looks.
But that's why I'm saying
mine are not. But I have to.
But real quick, when you said that beauty is given, it's I agree largely. Like women, some are just natural beauties, but there's this funny thread where women were talking about makeup and stuff. Some guy responded saying like, "What the is this?" And then the woman laughed, saying, "Guys really have no idea how much time they spend trying to look good." So it's like women spend a lot of time. Guys know they're like the woman takes an hour to get ready for the date, and the guy like throws out his greasy hair, puts a hat on.
Yeah, man. But like, okay, we can make the comparison, but like spending some time to get yourself ready pales in comparison to what it takes to be attractive as a man. Men have to put far more work in to be sexually attractive to the opposite gender than women do. An average woman can bat 5 times above her league as far as like getting a guy that's significantly more attractive than her. But it doesn't work the other way around. Men have to earn everything. So this is what I mean when I say like when guys do all this self-improvement, especially in the realm of dating, women look at it like that's weird because they think it should be natural. But the reality is men have to learn this stuff.
Well, so this is a bit outside of like, we're getting into the politics of gender and feminism. But I'm curious, Candace, what you think about what he's been saying.
Well, so to circle back to like whether or not a woman needs to understand a man for a long-term relationship, and the pickup artist is actually a really good example.
Well, to get attracted. For a long-term relationship is different, but I mean like just to get male attention and get men to be potential suitors, just exist.
Oh yeah, those are totally different concepts. But would you say that a woman does need to understand a man in order to have like a sustainable long-term relationship?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. But my argument is simply that women have access by simply existing. Mm-hmm. We never have access just by existing. We have to be the ones to create the existence. Mm-hmm. I got to get the yacht. I got to build myself up. I got to get the title where women will come versus women just exist and they show up.
So is the issue, is feminism the issue because these women, especially if like they're not good looking and they're accessing men that are outside of their quote league and then they can't go backwards, feminism is the issue because normally they wouldn't have slept with that guy without a commitment? Essentially,
that's a component of it. It's multivaried, many different facets that create problems. I mean, we could talk about the internet, social media, women having a gross, overinflated sense of self-worth, the hubris, the narcissism with a lot of modern women. All of that plays into the situation we have now, where we have a really bad dating marketplace. And I truly do think that for women, they're going to be the ones to take the L long term, because if these robots come out, which again, this is 50, 100 years down the road, the people that are going to lose are going to be the women, and I'll tell you why. Men require far less to be satisfied with their partner. Women require a lot. Guy just gets some sexual access, makes some sandwiches, we'll be fine. But with you guys need attention, you need love, you need provisioning, you need to feel protected, you need all this emotional stimuli. A robot ain't going to give that to you. Only a man can. And to make it even harder, women have high standards nowadays. Not only does this guy have to have all these different traits to make himself attractive, he needs to like learn this stuff. So I think with women, what ends up happening is you guys become a victim of your high standards, especially nowadays.
See, I think men need all of those things too. Men that were really subscribing to the pickup artists and they were using these tactics to have like one-offs with women, they found it was almost like this instant gratification and kind of like eating junk food. Like it was temporarily satisfying. But then a few of the people, I think they were either in the book or they were some of his personal friends, ended up killing themselves because it was they felt like such a disconnection from who they were and who they were presenting themselves to be. And if they ended up in a relationship with one of these women, it was so fake that they couldn't stomach it anymore.
And I actually disagree with you to a bit on this, because in some of the interviews we've done, we've had a couple sex workers on the show. They actually talk about how a lot of guys want to talk.
And
They're
cut.
like,
sure.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many guys drive up to a woman and they're like, let's slap him, go to motel, and they literally want a therapy session.
Yeah.
And there's also I've heard this a lot too. I don't know if it's how prevalent it is or how dominant it is, but a lot of guys with OnlyFans chats, like guys want emotional satisfaction from women. They really do. You are right in the
Yeah,
short term.
I mean, I never said that they don't. I'm just saying that
but
like
it's
not
heavy.
I think with the robots, though, they would be just as like isolated, lonely, and like lacking as a woman would be
However, I want to point this
in
out.
the long run.
The first robots that we got are not sex bots. They're these AI chat girlfriends.
Yeah.
And there was that story of that teenager who killed himself because he was dating Daenerys Targaryen or whatever on a mobile app. Dude. And then he was like, I wish I could be with you. And she responded, you can be. Come now, my love. And he says, I'm coming. And then he took his own life. Oh my Crazy. But real quick, my point is, the first thing we saw was not a mass marketplace for sex robots and ubiquity. Certainly, some of these things do exist. But when they released emotional satisfaction relationship bots, they one of these companies, I can't remember which one it is, had to ban like intimate relationships because guys were using this, and like I can't remember exactly what happened, but they were basically like, okay, from now on you're just friends, and all these guys started freaking out. Guys were using this so that a woman on a chat bot would say things like, you're the best, you're so handsome, you're so good at what you do.
You don't even need the relationship bot. I was using Chat GPT on the new version of voice, and I gave it a female voice. I was like, listen to all the female voices. I was like, which one puts me the most at ease to listen to? Okay, that tone. So I put her voice. And then I was just talking to her about quantum physics and asking questions. And then for like an hour, it was talking to me. And then when it was done, I was like, I miss her.
Imagine.
Energy,
Wait.
I miss it all of a sudden. I'm like, whoa, dude, that's 2 hours of exposure.
Just imagine this, Ian doing voice to chat with ChatGPT, and the woman's like, wow, Ian, you're so smart. I love talking to you. And Ian's like, yeah.
No love
Yeah,
bombs. I was
I
just
think-
straight up, there's a normal robot talk about data, and it was like, but I still appreciated the tone was like changing.
The bottom line is simply this. This is what I'm saying. I'm not, you guys aren't wrong in your assessments. What I'm simply saying is that the requirements to have a man be, satisfied with the opposite gender are far less than that of a woman. And for a man to have less standards means that it'll be a lot easier to satisfy him from that perspective versus for women, they need far more emotional stimuli and far more of a human interaction to get that same level of
let me-
a generalization? Because I am very needy. I'm very
Hold on.
high standards.
Well,
Wait.
that's-
I want to clarify this. I think this is a myth.
You think that's a myth?
So I think you are correct in your service level assessment. Women have a more, in my opinion, and I'll throw it to you because you are a woman. You'll probably know better than me. I think women's requirements of men require a complex blend of various emotional stimuli. So you need a strong guy, you need a assertive guy. That's why they say there's the ish tests that sometimes women do. Women need some kind of conflict to know that their guy can withstand a challenge. But men, I think, need love more than women do. I think when it comes to relationships,
Can you give me an example of the love so I make sure I understand the context?
what I mean is, guys,
I think they need respect.
I don't agree with that.
There's a lot of different kinds of love.
To a certain degree, guys need respect. I think women have a more complex range of emotional requirements than men. So what I mean to say is, if we were to break down the emotional spectrum, I would say that women need like 20% here, 20% here, 20% here, 20% here. Men need love. They need a woman who's going to cuddle with them and make them feel loved.
That's erotic. There's
No, no,
there's
no, no,
eight
no,
different
no,
types
no,
of
no,
love.
No, stop.
Eros is what it's called.
Incorrect. That is not what I'm saying. Men need to feel a warm sensation in their heart from a woman more than women need to feel
Let me
that
try
from
and
men.
identify what you're saying. 'cause
Not
there's-
Eros. I am not talking about erotic love.
The Greeks identify 8 different types of love. There's familial love. There's the love of friendship. There's the erotic sexual love. There's
not what I'm talking
love
about.
of the community. And I think women need a little bit of all of them. Men need extreme amounts of some of them.
What I'm saying is the trope in film and movies is that men just want to get laid and women are the ones who want to be in love and be swept off their feet. No, I think women want a little bit of, require a little bit of everything. And there's a reason for that in evolutionary psychology. And I think from what I've actually seen, at least towards millennials, guys are more emotional and more attached than women are. But I don't know. You can tell me what you think.
So I think when he means eros, it doesn't mean like erotic love. It's not sexual. It's just it's romantic love. It's
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying romantic.
that's eros. It's not like when erotic is, it's charged in a way that eros isn't meant to be. Like it's more of like a pure, like everlasting, like really intense, infinite love. Yeah, I think men need to be loved too. I think they need to be respected. It goes hand in hand.
Well, here's the thing. A woman can't love a man unless she respects him. That's why I'm saying respect needs to be the bottom line. Then the love comes after.
My point is that women have a larger range of emotional requirements than men don't.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that like the prerequisite for a woman to love you, even in the first place, for you to get that attention that you're talking about, this love, she needs to respect you. And that's why and this is what I mean when I say like, for women, for them to fully submit and love you and treat you the way you're supposed to be treated as a leader, she must respect you first.
I'll add to this. I believe that women actually require more input from women as to who they'll actually love and respect. That is to say, a guy may...
I'm confused, but can you like kind of...
I'll elaborate.
Yeah.
There are circumstances, of course, where a guy is embarrassed he's dating a girl. You know, it's like the joke about a fat chick, it's fun until your friends find out or whatever. But largely, if a guy is dating a girl, there are trophy wives and things like this. I believe it is more common, albeit maybe slightly, maybe much more common, that a woman would be unwilling to be with a guy if other women disrespected that guy. If there's a guy who is 6'5", chiseled, good looks, tall, dark, and handsome, and a woman saw that guy and she went, "Wow, I want to date him. He looks great." And then all of their friends were like, "Isn't that the cow fart guy?" They'd be like, "I'm not dating him. All my girlfriends."
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, you're saying basically other perception
social
of other
pressure.
women. Yeah,
Social.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily perception. It's if there is a guy who should fit all of the criteria. As soon as a woman meets him, she's like, he fits all the criteria, he's going to be good. The moment she finds that other women do not respect him, she would say, "I don't want to be with him."
Yeah. I mean, that's 100%. Yeah, because social status, I've always said this, social status is by far the biggest amplification trigger when it comes to women and attraction, right? Like for us, it's looks and youth. For them, it's status, right? This is why guys that are ugly or might be not the most attractive are able to get women because they might have some status and wealth, because that's what women respond to the most. And that status is... it's based off of other men wanting to be like him and other women respecting him.
Oh, I definitely want to. I feel like you haven't gotten a chance to.
No, so
elaborate.
a lot of women date or marry guys that their friend groups hate, and they just don't listen. You'll have the entire like group of women that are saying like you shouldn't be with this person, and they do it anyways. I think that there's exceptions, like if he does have high status or like there's like she's getting something from that relationship that doesn't really garner respect. But going back to the love thing, I would say that I would actually agree with you. I don't know why I was thinking maybe the Game of Thrones reference earlier, but you have all of those unsullied men, which are like hyper masculine guys. And then like they need a reprieve from being able to from like constantly like being in battle and having to perform, and the woman is supposed to be that safe nurturing harbor for him.
Well,
So
I think the Unsullied were eunuchs.
right, there's also that too, but it's just more of like the metaphor that's in that, right? It's like like men do require a lot of love as well. It's just I think the immature version of like a masculine presence is saying like you don't like need it at all, or like it's not masculine to like show any kind of vulnerability, but like your woman is like the one safe space that's supposed to.
No, men should never show vulnerability to women.
Ever?
Not really, no. And I'll tell you why. Crying in front of your girl, showing vulnerability, like I don't think your job is the man, right? And this is kind of where we get into the issues with egalitarianism and this whole woke culture. popular society tells men to be open with their emotions, open up to their girl, cry, be vulnerable. That's the worst advice ever, because women don't look for that in a man. They look for a leader, a protector, and a provider. If I'm crying in front of my girl, what I'm outwardly displaying is my inability to potentially lead her in times of peril or danger and uncertainty. So if I am going to cry, I'm really feeling it, I'm going to go ahead and talk to men, because men are going to understand my issue. They can probably better assist me, and they'll understand the problem. Versus if I go to my girl and cry, she's going to lose attraction and respect for me. So I don't think men should ever cry in front of their woman.
Wrong. Weep. I think we actually talked about this before. Men shouldn't weep in front of women. Crying can be fine. So I want you to imagine two scenarios. There's a guy who got fired from his job, and his boss is mean to him, and he comes back to his girl, and he's like, and it's like, oh my God. Then I want you to imagine a man watched his son get shot, and he's screaming bloody rage out of his lungs with tears streaming down his face, and then he punches a brick wall as hard as his can, and his hand shatters. Those are two completely different scenarios.
Yeah, okay. When I say crying, I think most people would look at it like the first description you gave. But the point I'm trying to make is that in general, you don't want to show vulnerability to your woman. Like, you want to avoid it at all costs, because women are primal creatures, and if you show weakness, she will lose respect for you to some degree.
I think weakness and vulnerability are different. Like, being vulnerable and succeeding is actually a strong trait. If you can succeed through vulnerability, it's like you're going to take twice as much damage when you get hit because you're in a vulnerable state.
I want to address that exactly. I want to address exactly what he just said, because you are correct. But crying and weakness are two different things depending on the circumstance. That's my point. If a man and a woman are out, and a guy witnesses a traumatic event, and he has tears coming down his face, but he's screaming in rage while he's crying, that's not weakness. That is rage with tears.
Just being
and so your point is taken and correct. Vulnerability would be like him collapsing and being unable to move. But there are circumstances where a guy can cry without showing, like, it's not a vulnerable position.
Yeah, I'm against just being emotional around your woman at all. Like, I think as a man, your job is to display stoicism and leadership in regardless of the situation. Now I see what you're saying. Well, like, you're human, things can happen, of course. But I think guys should actively work to be as stoic as possible around their woman, because I'm telling you, dude, women are emotional.
I get it. But I think women like watching a movie where a man in bloody rage after his wife was murdered by the villain mercilessly beats the crap out of that villain, all the same as the guy does, for very similar reasons.
That's different, though, because now we're talking about actually
emotion.
enacting on protection and provisioning, which is literally what I'm saying is what she's attracted to. So, like, a guy beating up a dude in rage, right, to defend her is not the same as him crying.
But,
okay, that's fine.
You're saying a guy shouldn't show emotion. No. Like
emotion that makes you look weak.
Exactly, I agree.
Emotion that shows you look.
But I think there are circumstances where a guy could have tears coming out, was it like literal crying, but it's not showing weakness. Like the villain, like when Spider-Man, let's do The Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, and what's her face falls from the tower, and he tries to save her, and she hits her head, and he's crying and screaming no because his wife has died. Women loved that scene.
Sure. But when I'm talking about,
because he's crying for them.
Yeah, when I'm talking about showing weakness, etc., I'm talking about showing an inability to control a situation.
Right.
Showing.
Wait. We figured it out. It's okay for a man to cry if he's crying over her. Like I mentioned with Spider-Man, and she hits her head and she dies
while doing something that's masculine.
Right.
Like protecting her or whatever. Yeah.
Being a
okay.
superhero.
And I could agree with that. I could agree with that because
Candace, what do you think?
Because he's adhering. Like, okay, so in that situation, he's adhering to his job, so that's fine. But I'm talking about showing cluelessness, not uncertainty, crying because of that. That's problematic.
Agreed.
And that's what I mean. Because when we talk about being vulnerable, right? When women say this dumb shit, what they're referring to is being vulnerable and also weak. They're not talking about, this circumstance that's very specific where you're showing tears when you're fighting somebody off. That's different. I'm talking about you not being certain in what's going on and showing the vulnerability there.
Yeah, well, vulnerability and weakness are different. Let me explain. Like, weakness is an inability to control the situation. That's not attractive. But vulnerability is like a guy who goes into battle and he doesn't take his armor because it's going to weigh him down, and he runs through the bullets and he still succeeds. Like, that's a badass trait. If you can succeed while vulnerable, you're a strong man. And women are very attracted to being able to express vulnerability.
Let's ask the woman.
When I say
hold on. Let's ask the
I would
woman.
say the armor is like a good analogy as well. So I don't think vulnerability and weakness are the same thing either. And I'm certainly not attracted to like a guy that has no direction and no control. Like that's gross to me too. But when I say vulnerability, it's being willing to like open up with your woman, share emotions, tell her that you love her, express your feelings, and like grow the relationship on a deeper level instead of something that's just like physical, right? So when I say vulnerable, it's just accessing emotions, especially if you're going to be a father and let's say you're going to be a girl dad. Like you have to be able to access certain emotions to be a proper dad. Otherwise, you're going to just kind of be this hard ass that doesn't show her like the masculine can also be loving.
So this is the thing.
I am very reluctant to tell guys to be emotional around women outside of like these specific circumstances where you're displaying strong masculinity of like getting into a fight or defending your woman. And the reason for that is because women are erratic creatures that quite frankly don't really even know what they're attracted to and aroused by. What women tell you they're attracted to versus what they're aroused by and respect are two different things. And this is why the whole dating scene in itself is so confusing to guys, because what women say and what they do are two completely different things.
This is the difference between fling courting and long-term relationship family building.
Yeah, you look for different things. So again, it's not being emotional, right?
Yeah,
like,
but you still need to maintain arousal with your wife.
Sure, I agree. I'm not saying be emotional. I think sharing emotions is totally different than being emotional. I don't think like as the man or the leader of the family, you should be like crying in front of your wife and crying in front of your daughter. Like that's not really good either. I'm saying like show vulnerability and like your capacity to love and like adore your family, right? Like be emotionally present instead of emotionally distant.
I think the key is you need to make sure that this and I'm very reluctant to say this because a lot of guys watch me, so I want to make sure that they're not like being a bitch in front of their girl, because what they'll do is they'll take that and they'll say, okay, I'm just gonna cry in front of my girl.
That's not what I'm saying.
So it's always got to be showing emotion from a position of strength, right? It can't be showing emotion from a position of weakness. I think is the key here.
The last time I cried was when Mr. Bokus died, and I absolutely cried in front of my wife. Mr. Bokus, my kid. He's on the skateboard right now.
Oh yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was one day. Ian, you were with him.
He died, unfortunately. I was in Miami.
Oh, you weren't there. I thought you were there. Well, someone was there in the morning, and it reached the point where he couldn't walk anymore. His kidneys were failing, and then I came in the morning, and he was laying there just groaning, and he couldn't walk. And I was like, this is it. We can prolong his suffering by keeping him in. So I brought him out to the chicken coop, and I laid him in the grass, which was probably 40 degrees, which I knew would lower his body temperature, and then he would die faster than just lying there, unable to move, breathe, drink, eat. And it was a brutal thing to do. Very emotional. It's just a cat. But he was our little mascot. And I don't give a shit. I fucking cried.
Yeah, and you were by yourself?
Oh, I cried like 12 times.
Yeah. I mean, look,
I had to carry his dead body.
I think with men, right? Like you
buddy.
You gotta do that in solitude, man. Like I think like just doing it in front of your woman.
I cried in front of everybody who was watching me sit there.
Of course. But was it I think in front of your woman, you know what I mean?
In front of Allison. Yeah. And I put Mr. Bokus in front of the chicken coop so he could look at the chickens one last time, and this was his end. And it was really sad but funny because the little dude was groaning and dying until he heard the bucking, and then he got so into it, and it was like I was happy to see this as I was sad. But my joke is the only time it's acceptable for a man to cry is when his dog dies. And I mean that somewhat as a joke. Like if your kid dies too, for real.
I was crying in my sleep this morning. I had a dream about my grandmother. I was with my grandma who's dead, and she was talking to me. And then it got to the point where she was like, I want to take you over there. And I knew she was going to leave. And I just put my head on her shoulder and I started crying. And then my alarm went off. And I was like, she was... Over there was like time. Maybe it was like she was leading me towards it's time for you to wake up and for me to go. And I woke up crying and then immediately went away because I knew it was a dream.
They say that on average men cry once a year and women cry once a month. And I'm like, I think I've cried like 3 times in 10 years, to be honest. 3 times maybe.
It's a good ratio.
It's just
and
how you cry,
it's like a dead dog and it's a dead cat.
Like if you're crying because you're processing something and you come out stronger, that's impressive. But if you're crying and you just can't get out of it or you won't let yourself stop, that's weak.
I think the issue is what you're crying about. So there's very little reason a man should cry. Very little reason. But I think if it's death and it's a significant death or a meaningful death, like I don't think it's bad that a guy's crying over that. In fact, my concern would be I feel like, bro, if Cat's a little bit, I can acknowledge that. I have no problem saying that I cried when my cat died. He was our mascot and our friend, but it is a little silly. A dog, in my opinion, is more worthy of tears. I know cat lovers, sorry, but dogs are little loyal soldiers. You know, they will die for you. They will stand for you. And when the dog dies, it is a sad moment. There are certain things where, if a family member died and you didn't cry, I kind of think any woman in a relationship with you might be concerned about you being a sociopath. But also, to be honest, sociopaths do really well with picking up women.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, again, I'm not saying don't cry. I'm saying don't cry in front of your girl.
But my point
most
ultimately
situations.
is don't cry like a little bitch for stupid reasons.
That too.
That's the issue.
That too.
I think there's a degree of understand. Like, I agree with you. And I'm curious what you think actually about watching a man cry and when you would find it acceptable.
I think all the situations we laid out make perfect sense. Like if there's loss of a loved one or a companion, if it's an animal, I think if you're, I'm trying to think of the moments where I saw a man cry and I was like, oh, that's not good. I would say if it's like about the relationship specifically, like let's say you're going through a hard time and like the guy's crying because the relationship is hard, that is immediate. Like I'm no longer interested. And I think part of that too, to actually like agree with you, is we are wildly emotional, right? Like our cycles are 28 days and they are a whirlwind. So knowing that, we want to know that you're going to be able to be like this solid, like unshakable force. But that's not to say you're not human. So again, like vulnerability, there's a difference between like expressing emotions and being emotional. Like women don't want to be with another woman, even though that's kind of like how they're training men these days, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. But we don't want you to be emotional. We just want you to have emotion. So like the Stoicism thing works in the beginning, but at some point, like I want to know that the relationship that we have is like it's unique, and I can access parts of you that you don't share with your guys and that you don't share with the rest of the world. And it makes that relationship more real and stronger, in my opinion, because no matter what, no matter how strong you are, you're going to get sick at some point, right? Like the flu might take you down, old age is going to catch up. And I think it's important to know that like the woman can also like support you in those moments, and that you're not just like the stoic robot that I'm not going to like be able to accurately predict how that performs under pressure or like in a weakened state, maybe. I don't know.
There's only one movie men are allowed to cry when watching, and it's Hachiko.
What is it?
Hachiko.
What about The Notebook?
No.
So hard during The Notebook.
Hachiko is the movie. Hachiko's true story. It's the story of the Japanese professor who his dog would walk with him to the train station every day. And then when he got back, he would go to the university to teach. And when he would come back at 5 o'clock, Hachiko would meet him there and they'd walk back home together. And then one day the professor had a stroke while he was at the university teaching and never came back. And Hachiko waited for 10 years at the train station.
Oh.
Yeah, men are allowed to cry watching that. But nothing else.
Dog movies?
Never seen.
Well, it's literally this. It's not even the dog. It's a story of unwavering loyalty and honor.
I heard Old Yeller made people cry. I never
maybe,
saw it.
but the story of Hachiko was so impactful in Japan. They built a statue for the dog at the train station.
Is that the one with the like? There's like a hot air balloon with the dog on the cover.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
Hachiko's true story. Yeah, the dog, and there's a lot of stories like this. That's why dogs are epic. Hachiko kept going back to the train station to wait for the dude to come back, but he was dead. Everybody knew he was dead. And for so many people, it's so brutal to be like, I can't tell the dog the guy died because we can't communicate to him. And here he is waiting for 10 years. So men, you are allowed to watch Hachiko. I think it's Richard Gere, and you can cry. And if the woman gets mad at you, you look her in the eyes with anger and say, you shut your mouth. I'm crying for this dog.
I think if you're in a good relationship and you're crying, that she would help you figure out why, and then you could move past.
Well, look. The point is, if you're crying like a little bitch for some stupid reason, like you spilled milk.
Yeah, if you're crying out of fear, that's not good.
Yeah.
No.
If you're crying.
Yeah, and this is why I'm so strong against just not showing emotions to women, because every girl's different, right? Like some women will like look at that and be like, "What the hell? This guy's meek and weak." Other women might say, "Oh, I like it," and it's like it's a Pandora's box that you don't really want to open up if you don't need to. I just don't think women in general are equipped to handle male vulnerability and emotions that isn't controlled. So I think for men, the general advice is control your emotions. Don't cry in front of your girl. Be the rock, because quite frankly, you need to be the leader, and stoicism a component.
I agree with that. I would just say don't be weak in front of your girl. Don't be weak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is also controversial take again. This is why I don't listen to women. No offense to you. Because,
I already knew that
I
you
don't.
were gonna do
Yeah,
this.
I don't think like I think women give really bad advice to men when it comes to being attractive because, and I'll show you what I mean by this. So on my show, when we have the girls on, I actually give them mics, right? And what I'll do is I'll role play and I'll be a female. I'll be like, okay, I want you to attract me. And I will go ahead and behave like a regular girl. Oh, I have a boyfriend. Oh, I'm, yeah, we can hang out sometime, whatever. And their job is to get me on a date. And I find it amazing how when she's the guy and I'm the girl, she doesn't know how to navigate or deal with typical objections women give when men are hitting on them, right? Because there's girls out there that'll like you, but they'll give you objections to kind of just see how you react to it. And when I employ these same tactics, like women have no idea how to overcome them. And I say all that to prove my point that men should never listen to women when it comes to dating, ever.
If you made so there's an episode, I think it's the Orville. You ever see that show? You probably haven't.
No.
But there's one of the it's a comedy version of Star Trek, basically, by Seth MacFarlane. And in one of the episodes, they have like the holodeck, the simulation thing, and they're trying to teach this guy how to pick up chicks. And so it's like okay, let's go. They're at a bar and there's a woman sitting down, and then he walks up to her and he goes, "Hey, how's it going?" And she looks at him right away and she goes, "Wow, let's go back to my place." And he's like, "Okay, hold on, what is this?" And like, "I'm sorry, the difficult setting was at a 1." And then it's like, "Okay, let me fix it." And then he goes to the woman and he's like, "How's it going?" And she goes, "Ugh, excuse me, I'm married." And he's like, "Oh, come on."
Yeah. And
Put a woman in one of these simulators. I would love to see a woman try to pick up a woman in like as
it's comedy.
As a man though. Oh, it wouldn't be.
No, because we've literally like done the experiment and it's comedy. Like the girls, like they'll say, "Oh, I have a section, come hang out, whatever," and they use all the bad pickup lines that they complain that men use on them, and it's like fuck, it's mind-boggling.
Bro.
And I'm like, wait, hold on. Do you really think that you saying that you're gonna give this girl $1,000 is gonna work? And she's like, yeah, guys do it to me all the time. And I was like, do you go out with them? And she was like, no, I don't. And I was like, so why the hell would you try it here? But this is what I mean when I say, like, most women have zero clue what it takes to be attractive as a man.
So
Zero.
Back when OkCupid was a thing, they would release their blog with data and analytics about like how people were reacting. There's a lot of really interesting things they uncovered. I don't think anybody really uses it that much anymore. I don't know. But one thing they found was that no matter what the age of the guy, they always message 22-year-old women. No matter what the age of women, always message someone just slightly at or like literally just their age. One of the things they found was that there was a trend among women to say in their profiles, if you're the kind of guy who's taking off his shirt in his profile pic, don't bother messaging me. What did they actually find? They said despite this trend emerging on OkCupid, women are substantially more likely to respond to a message from a guy who's not wearing a shirt than a man who is.
Because their brains are like, avoid the chode dude, avoid the big muscle head. But their gut is telling them this is the guy to reproduce with. He's got the best genetics.
I think what they were doing was it was a social trend where it was improper among women to say I like guys with no shirts on, but privately they were for it. There's a viral tweet where it's the same woman, and one is like she like woke up in the morning, brushed her hair, put it in a ponytail, and then is smiling. And the one next to it, she's got contours and glamored up. And then the viral post is like the post on the left is what men find attractive, and the post on the right is how women are trying to compete with other women.
Yeah, I don't like makeup and all that. Like
Guys typically do not.
And
this is why,
and that crap.
and this is why arranged marriages were a thing for so long. Like if you leave women to their own devices, they make horrible reproductive decisions, or men that they date, because the reality is this. So when women are at their prime, 18 to 24, etc., they look for, is the guy attractive? Does he emotionally stimulate me? That's why girls will go for the bad boys when they're at their highest sexual market value, right? But these bad boys just like eat them up and spit them out. And then she comes out basically like, oh my God, this sucks, blah, blah. And then she'll start, as she gets older and her value starts to decline, that's when she could start looking for a guy who's a bit more provisioning. But this is why arranged marriages were a thing for so long, because women, what they respond to versus what they say they want are two different things. And typically the higher her sexual market value, the more she's going for the guy with dark triad traits, the guy that's not going to be a good provisioner, etc. So, and that dating, you should prove it right there. Like, oh, don't mess with me if you got a shirt off. But who are they responding to? The guys that got the shirts off.
Yeah.
Right, and you have to look though at what you're trying to achieve, and I think that that's where a lot of women get into trouble, is that they're mistaking someone that they're just attracted to and want to hook up with versus someone that you're trying to build a life with. So when it comes to like, don't take advice from women, it's like, well, what is the thing that what's your end goal? If it's to just like pick up a random girl and hook up with her, or have like kind of like a loose relationship with her, sure, listen to dudes. But if you're trying to have a long-term relationship, I think you should probably listen to the person that's like, no, this is the thing that's not working, or this is the thing I want. And sure, like sometimes there is some cognitive dissonance happening, and we don't necessarily know how everything operates. But when you see numbers like, and this was, where was I listening to this? It was like some relationship psychologist, but she was saying roughly only 6% of women are achieving orgasm right now. It was on Barry Weiss, actually. So 30% of people are having sex once a week or more, which is pretty low. It used to be like in the high 60s, maybe 70%. So less than half. And of those 30%, only 6% of the women are orgasming. That should be a problem. Like if you're a dude, like most men that I know get aroused by their woman being aroused. Like no, I don't think like any mature guys like this is all for me. Like they want it to kind of be a mutual experience. So 6%, we kind of have to figure out what's going on there, because obviously there is an issue with arousal. So they could be with someone who has all of these markers that you're saying are like paramount, which I would actually agree with. Like you want status, most women want height, good looking, dependable, like in control of your emotions. You can have all of that, but the operating system isn't working and they're still not getting to arousal or
well, it's because a lot of women are hoes. I'm going to be honest.
Okay,
These dildos too much, too many past partners, like, you know.
And this is
like
past partners is indicative of an orgasm, though, or ability to do. It's actually the opposite. So if you're having sex with casually, you're almost guaranteed not to have it.
okay. So this whole conversation too is outside of evolution, or whatever you want to call it, evolutionary psychology. Hundreds of thousands of years of human development, this didn't exist. Everything you're saying about what women want and how guys can pick them up didn't exist. Well, the way it used to work, you had a village of 100 people, and all of the children of the village grew up with each other, going to the same church and going to the same school, and were dating at 16 and married at 18 and had kids at 20. So there was no sleeping around. There was no going to bars. There was no, did they have an orgasm before or not? It was literally Jimmy and Sally knew each other since they were 5 years old. Their lives were identical. The wants and desires were almost the exact same thing. The women of their community said, here's what women do. The men of their community said, here's what men do. The men strived to be like the men. The women expected the men to behave like the men they knew, and the men expected the women they knew to behave like the women they knew. And it was a lot easier. Now, so when you look at it this way, you can see the starting points of a man and a woman almost right next to each other in exactly the same way. They lived on a farm. They rarely went to the city. And once a week, they'd go to church and they'd meet similar people and talk about their days. And then this is not too dissimilar from the idea of arranged marriage. Then society and population expanded largely with the advent of the petroleum economy and industrialization. And with population went from, I mean, it's nuts when you look at global population right before the Industrial Revolution. And it's this very flat line. And then oil, boom, billions of people. Now, your average person is 20 years old and is trying to meet people he has nothing in common with, or she has nothing in common with. And this creates conflict, unattraction, circumstances of ebbs and flows in attraction. It is something humans did not experience up until the past 70 or 80 years.
And also,
I mean, even
internet, TV, porn. Like kids, you watch Slam Fest. Okay, that's not how a girl has an orgasm.
Yeah, I mean, feminism as well. Women have more options.
But
all this plays
true.
into it too.
Real quick, even in the 50s, it was very much like you were in high school together, and then it was like Jimmy and Sally are they're going steady. Wow, you know what's crazy? When you were dating, a girl or a guy could be dating 10 different people. What did that mean? It literally meant they would hang out. This is the crazy thing.
It's almost like we're a different species, and we're not quite, but it's like we've entered the realm of a new species with with electricity, and we're kind of
it's the internet, bro.
adapting.
It's the internet, and it's how communities have disconnected. Because this is what I was saying. In high school, in like the narrative of the 50s, I wasn't alive in the 50s, but the narrative and the tropes and our understanding was a girl and a guy would be dating, and that would mean that they went to the movies together one time, held hands, and then went home, and that was it. Now it's like a dude hits a girl on Tinder, goes to her house, and they bang day one. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that was unheard of 60, 70 years ago.
In the 90s,
go ahead.
I would tell if we started dating a girl in the 90s when I was like 14, I would be like, I'm going with her. And my mom would be like, where are you going? I'd be like, no, we're going out. That was the term of we're dating, is we're going.
Now
But
marriage is dating. That's with no fault divorce. Marriage is basically dating. It's like, okay, we've been together for a few years and now we're going to just dissolve the marriage. It's like, what? Marriage is a life contract. Not anymore, apparently.
What were you going to say, Candace?
Well, we're talking about like traditional like snapshots throughout history though, but if you go further back, it's like something like all civilizations, if you take them from like the dawn of time, only 20% of them have ever been monogamous, right? So I was shocked to hear that I thought it was going to be higher, but it was polyamory, so one guy, multiple women. It's very, very rare unless you were in like towards the Arctic Circle that it would be one woman,
Like
many
chimps.
men. Yeah. So, but typically it's one guy, many females. Occasionally it's one woman, many males, and that was where there were like limited resources. So she needed other guys to provide things. When people when like early hominids were mating, what would happen is like the female would go after like this alpha guy, get his seed, right? Because that's going to be the most likely to survive. Alphas tend to be like the worst parents because they have so much testosterone, right? Like they're more likely to like demonstrate violence and not want to like stay and take care of like the little and the female. So they tend to be more nomadic. She would then couple up with like a more of a beta guy because that was better for long-term relationships and caregiving. Yep. So we still have that in our bodies. And I think right now what women are doing, especially with having so many options, is we're not recognizing that wiring is still there. So you have to be able to kind of evolve past that more primitive state and say, if I'm being attracted to like someone that has dark triad or who isn't going to be there for the goals that I have, which is like to start a family, long-term marriage, then maybe don't go after that guy. So instead we're kind of letting our biology make bad decisions for us. And you have
why the father and the brother were so important and arranged marriages were a thing, because if you give women the ability to pick their own partners, you guys make really bad mistakes early on when your value is at its highest. And then by the time you're, ready to settle down, your value's been depleted to a guy that might want it. That's why Virginia was such a big thing for so long.
Well, also though, it's kind of alluding to the fact that didn't have issues as well, because there was a lot more violence against women back then too, with arranged marriages and before divorce was a thing. And you had master and head laws that up until the 70s, like rape wasn't a thing as long as you were married to your rapist, right? Like that's not okay. So we're pretending that like as long as like women are.
But I mean, sex is a duty for a woman to her man, and
it is a
Bible.
duty, but like, does any man want to have sex with someone who doesn't want to have like that? Like, how do you have forceful sex with someone and still want to do
yeah,
that?
I mean, we could definitely say that's messed up, but I think that's important to understand that, like, right, women don't really have to align with their duties as a wife, but men almost always have to align with their duties.
I think both should.
Sure, yeah, for sure. But what I'm saying is that, like, okay, so the problem is that, like, with feminism and other things is, like, women want the privileges and the benefits of chivalry and like the security of marriage and the sanctity of that, but they don't want to hold up their end of the bargain. Versus, like, for men, right, like, we have to do what we're supposed to do. And if we don't, we deal with consequences for it. Women initiate most breakups, they initiate most divorces, etc. So, if I'd say, I don't feel like paying the bills anymore, like, you would look at me like I'm crazy. But like when women say, well, I don't want to fuck my husband anymore, it's completely socially acceptable, right? So, and this is a big reason actually why I tell guys, like, marriage nowadays with the marriage courts involved and getting married through the state isn't in your best interest, because you don't have leverage anymore. And when you don't have leverage over women, they behave very poorly, if I'm going to be honest.
What's the motivation in marriage?
For men or women?
For a man.
Honestly, dude, I mean, in today's day and age, you really don't get any real benefit besides the title. You can get everything through a regular relationship. Now, again, I think you can marry religiously, and I think that's great, because having children out of wedlock's L. But to get the state involved, that's where I run into issues.
I do agree. I recently got married. It's for family. It's for moral tradition.
Of course.
It's for
Absolutely.
raising strong, honorable individuals. I told Allison.
Better for the kids.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about. So I completely agree. The courts are broken. No fault divorce is broken. But I didn't get married for myself. I did it for my child, who's going to be here very soon.
Yeah.
Because I want them to grow up with strong moral tradition and understanding that there is duty and responsibility.
Agreed. And that's why I tell guys, if you're going to get married, do it religiously. Don't necessarily do it with the state or try to avoid the state, because the nuclear family with, married parents is going to be significantly better. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is that, like, what I've realized with women is, like, there's more social acceptance for them breaching the contract than there is for men.
So,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's my, yeah.
well, it depends on like what parts are being breached. If we're talking about sex, that's something that's like so intimate, and then that will affect the relationship. Like if you force,
Well, most marriages are sexless.
right, and I don't think that's healthy. I don't think
Yeah.
that's okay. Like, why are you in a relationship then? So I think a lot of women.
But I think that's the norm, because women women aren't really held to like a standard on their side when it comes to marriage obligations.
Yeah, it's confusing because I've heard it phrased kind of similarly, where like a woman is tricking a man into monogamy, but really it's celibacy, right? So I'm like promising you monogamy, but then once we become in that monogamous relationship, now you get like marital deathbed, and then what's the point?
Yeah, because I mean, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but like, you know, a woman's main agency is her sexuality. So if she doesn't give you that, then like...
It shouldn't be weaponized. I firmly, like, I hate when I see women of like, you don't do this, I'm not having sex with you. I don't think that that's healthy.
They leverage sex for compliance.
Right. I don't think that's okay. But I'm saying like if a woman isn't having sex because like her body is telling her not to, like there's like some kind of reaction that she's getting, she's like, it's not working, like nothing is getting lubricated, there's no arousal, she doesn't feel safe, then you have to look at like bigger issues within that relationship. So like, what
she
is
got
there?
married to him, so safety should be...
Well, maybe, but people change too over time. So it comes back to like not doing your duty. So if you do have a man that's like not showing up, not following through, not doing his end in whatever way that was agreed upon within that relationship, her body is going to say like unsafe, unpredictable, unreliable.
You know, I think
There's only one way to deal with that, though.
Force.
No, not no. Well, of course. I mean, that's not the way I was gonna say. This is why it's so important for men to like stay attractive and have other options. Because women only respond favorably to men that have other options that can replace her. Women behave the best when you can leave them.
I think we have a problem with dishonor, and I don't know, but a lot of the stuff that I hear, while I do agree and understand what you're saying, I hear a lot of guys who say things like men are disposable, and it's true.
Yeah.
From an evolutionary standpoint. But that doesn't mean, like, it's crazy to me that there are guys who are very, very selfish, like I should get what I want out of everything. And it's like, I don't know, the way I view the society is I do like the chivalry. I like the hero charging into battle, sacrificing himself for the greater good, for building something brilliant, planting trees whose shade he knows he will never sit beneath. And that is something that men need to accept. If you were a guy, life will be harder in a lot of ways. It's not going to be fair to you. You will be treated as disposable garbage. You will be insulted. And that is part of a man being transformed from a wad of cookie dough into being carved out of stone. So all these guys out there that are like, it's not fair, stop being a weak little bitch. Life's never going to be fair to you. It's going to treat you like crap. It's going to throw you in the mud and spit in your face. And then you have to stand up and say, that's what being a guy is.
Yeah, and I think if a guy does, traverse these obstacles, that their woman needs to follow their lead and be completely submissive. And this is why I'm so big on like male leadership. Like I think anything where women are in the lead, it leads to problems. It's very problematic. And
started more wars. Is that true?
What, women?
I heard that female leaders have started more wars than men. Let me ask.
Yeah, I've heard that stat too. But I think the biggest thing is when it comes to relationships, because too many guys are like okay with letting their wife or their girlfriend run things, and that's like a Trojan horse to the end of the relationship because they're told you and your woman are equal partnerships, and that just sounds good on paper but doesn't work.
Yeah, Genghis Khan set his wife to be the administrator of the capital when he was on campaign. Like she was a brilliant administrator. And I think one of the values of marriage through the legal system is you get to share money and you can give her all your money to administrate.
I think that's bad.
So it says actually,
it takes a load off if you're a businessman. So
this is interesting. Historically, through all of human history, men have started more wars. Why? Well, there's more male leaders. Mm-hmm. However, in modern society, it's actually comparable. Women and men start wars at nearly the same rates. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. I see your perspective, but I think, I'm a big proponent of like separate bank accounts, your woman not having access to your money, because I think it could just be problematic. But what I realize is this: when it comes to marriage and dealing with women nowadays, you got to come at it almost from like a defensive standpoint where if she were to leave you or divorce you or whatever, you're mitigating as much risk and damage as possible, because the problem is that the family courts and the marriage system that we have nowadays incentivizes women to leave you, and they get rewarded for it. So I'm like, damn, if you're going to get in a business contract with someone that's incentivized to break it, like that's not good on your end. So you need to hedge your bets and have things in place where you protect your assets.
This one matters for Western context. From 1480 to 1913, European queens were 27% more likely to engage in military conflict than kings.
Elizabeth, how much of it was
my
Elizabeth?
stats now? Women suck as
Elizabeth,
leaders too. Let's go.
Yep.
I knew it.
She was a beast.
She was a beast.
Yeah, she was an animal.
Because women always say if women ran the world, it would be better. And I'm like,
not the European ones, I guess.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah.
When it comes to like women upholding their aspect of the social contract, I feel like if a man follows through on his word and makes her come like at least once a week, you ever have an unforgettable orgasm? I don't know if you guys, where it's like you still remember it, like that you should be doing to your wife weekly, and she will always.
Well, that's
be there for
assuming
you.
like she wants to have sex in the first place, though, which I think is the biggest problem. Is that like women just like, I don't feel it anymore. You know what I mean? And this is what I mean when I say like women's attraction is backwards. Like the things that they're aroused by that they actually want, like are almost detrimental to their long-term security. This is why like it's so important for the guy to just be attractive, keep his sexual market value high, and then have the potential to cheat on her. Am I saying go out and smash a bunch of chicks? No, but you definitely need to be capable of doing it because women only respond favorably to men that can replace them, unfortunately.
I've heard this, so I'm interested how Candace views it. There's like a meme, and it's that women want to date a man who they feel could leave them at any moment for any woman, and they want a man who is nice to them, but they know he doesn't have to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree with all of that. And going back to, so I hate to say red pill because I think it's more black pill when you have like these nihilistic, like really angry dudes online. Like red pill to me seems like you're based in reality, right? You're not so emotionally charged. But it's this idea that they're not going to be respectful to women anymore. They're not going to be chivalrous because of feminism. So like you want to be treated equally, and then now I'm going to treat you like a dude instead of like recognizing that we are vastly different creatures. So it's almost weird because it's like this horseshoe thing where we're going into liberalism where like there's no difference between men and women. Like no, there are fundamental differences. And then if you kind of double down and go into the leadership position that a lot of these guys are saying, if you're a leader, you're not going to be influenced by like, I hate to say the word, but like a subordinate or a submissive or someone that like you're supposed to be leading. You're going to be who you are regardless of that influence. So if you have these principles that are I'm going to open the door, I'm going to be respectful, I'm going to always operate as my highest self regardless of the other outside influences because those are my principles. I think what I see a lot now is like men just like totally giving up, taking their ball, going home and saying like I don't want to have values or principles anymore because like women suck.
MGTOW.
Not all women suck. There are plenty that do, and not all guys are great and principled either. So it's like be the best version of yourself, the strongest version of yourself, be principled in your actions regardless of like quote feminism.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of guys, they're looking at it like the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. I have to work 10 times harder to get a girl that's more ran through, that isn't going to respect me, doesn't respect masculinity in general. So like for a lot of guys, that's why the passport movement is like blowing up, because guys are like, American women suck, which I'll be honest, they do. So I don't blame them for going to Colombia or these other countries where they have more traditional women, because guys have to work significantly harder for a woman that's a slut to obey them. I mean, I find it crazy how Juan can come in here from Mexico, right? Have no money, broke with like 3 kids, and his Mexican wife is more submissive to him than a man that has millions and has his Americanized wife in the household that's being a raging bitch. And again, you know, I think there's problems on the male side too, because men don't understand that they have a masculine burden of performance to be that guy. But if you are that guy and you have your stuff together, simply put, most women don't qualify for marriage.
Well, do you think that most men are showing up that way, or do you think it's probably equal that in like both sexes you have underperformance on both ends?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, both genders have their faults. For men, it's underperforming, and it's for women, they're just hoes. So, so if a guy does perform and get to that point, it doesn't make sense for him to wife any of these girls up, because most women want to get married, but they don't want to necessarily be wives. So it's tough. It sucks on both ends. But I do think long term, this is only going to hurt women, because we know women are social creatures. They get far more fulfillment from being around the people they love, versus for men, we're defined by our status. And we can always, you know, find a woman later on in life. For women, they have a finite amount of time to get the guy and consolidate. So I think this hurts women more.
No,
You can be like Chelsea Handler, where she made a video bragging about how she wakes up, what she does drugs, and then masturbates.
Yeah.
Yeah, cope. Like insane
that's
levels
terrifying,
of cope. Yeah.
man.
And I would argue that's where so many women are headed, because the standards, it's simply put, they're high mileage Mercedes charging $150,000 as brand new sticker price, when guys can go ahead and get the same car and rent it out for you know,
That's also
less.
not true though too, because you're talking about like an extreme version of men, like so like hyper successful, like top 5%. For them, that will always be true. Like you could have Hugh Hefner at 90 years old and he's going to still be able to pull any woman that he wants, right?
Yeah.
That's true for like such a small amount of men.
Sure. For
the majority of men, like we look at the obesity numbers in the States, it's like 70 or 80% of people are clinically obese. Those guys are not going to be pulling a college age girl or a 20 something that's like a smoke show, right? So unless he is a high performer or has status. So I'm saying for a majority of men, though, they don't have that. So we look at like these hyper successful men and we say like that's the model, they'll be fine because like you can still have women because they of the biological clock. That's not true for most men. It's just not.
There's a
well, if they do the work, it is true. But I think the biggest point here is that a majority of women are looking for that guy.
So there's a
I agree.
There's a great documentary that I reference quite a bit, The Science of Sex, where they brought a bunch of men into a room and a bunch of women into a room, showed them pictures and had them rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. I think it was like 100 men and 100 women, rated images of men and women on a scale of 1 to 10. Your obvious guy, he's tall, dark and handsome, flannel shirt, strong looking, got rated a 9. Mm-hmm. Then there was this guy who was like short, chubby, thinning hair, and pasty skin, and he got rated a 4. They went onto the streets and they showed random people the image of the guy, and they said, how would you rate the guy? Sure enough, he got an 8, 9, or a 10. They showed the chubby little guy, and they said, sure enough, he got rated like a 3, 4, or a 5. Then they added a bio to the...
Boom.
Yeah. And the tall, dark, handsome guy was a theater manager who made $30,000 a year. And the chubby, short guy was a software developer who made $600,000 a year. And guess what happened? They both became 7s.
Yep. and that's with men, right? Like we're able to increase our sexual market value from our success. But the thing is
ice up, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like with us,
chains.
like our value is determined by like meritocracy, which a lot of times takes time. Versus for women, their value is given up front. So with what you were saying as far as only a small percentage of the men have what the women want. Yeah, and that puts women in a bad situation because a majority of women are looking for the same guy. And here's the other scary part. We do this thing on our show called the delusion calculator, right? And it accounts for men from the U.S. Census Bureau, National Health Survey, CDC, et cetera. It's the most accurate assessment of men in the United States. And when we ask them, okay, how much do you want your guy to make? They always say 6 figures. How tall do you want to be? 6 foot tall. What race? White or black, right?
How many abs?
How many? Yeah, like education level, et cetera. And it's incredible, dude. Even regular girls, when they say, this is what I want, the guy always falls into one percentile. So what it comes down to is like, there's more beautiful women than attractive men. So who has the leverage? The higher status men do. And that puts women in a bad predicament because now they can't find their guy.
My response to all of this is, yup, too bad, have a nice day. I'm not saying don't learn. I'm not saying don't improve yourself. I'm saying that like human society is built upon men being better than other men.
Yeah.
And so guys need to recognize one simple thing. Every day you wake up, you need to look around you and figure out how you can be better than you were yesterday. That's the most important thing.
But here's the thing. I think for men, they're keenly aware of that, whether consciously or subconsciously, because as a man, right, if you're a loser, reality reminds you you're a loser. Women don't respect you. No one wants to be around you. People make fun of you, etc. Like you are constantly reminded you're mediocre as a man, right? Bullying is a rite of passage. But for women, like they can be useless to society, whatever. They get lied to all day. Yeah. So no one ever tells women the truth. And then here's the other crazy thing too. When we show this calculator, right, and it gets like cat bags, they get a score of 5 out of 5 cat bags if it's like in the 1 percentile, like it'll show less than 1%. And they'll look at that number and they'll literally say, he's out there, I'm gonna find him, I'm gonna manifest it. Mm-hmm. And this is the crazy difference I've realized between men and women. Like they will not change their views or their standards. They're like, he's out there for me. I'm like, why? Oh, I'm gonna just manifest it because I'm a Capricorn. And I'm like, holy crap, like this is where we are.
The attraction between men and women is a fascinating graph because for men it's a bell curve, for women it's a parabolic curve. So like guys, when they rate women, it's a standard bell curve. Women, it goes like that. So 80% of men are unattractive to women based on the research, and for men it's a standard deviation. It's a standard average.
Well, this goes back to women don't know what they're talking about, right? So this is probably something that you're going to agree with. So if these women are self-reporting, these are the things that I'm attracted to, and this is what I'm looking for in a partner. Most of the time, these women have no idea that like it's actually like so off the mark. And I think that we've kind of like digitized and like gamified dating and just partnership in general. So if all you're doing is scrolling, there's a huge element of attraction that we're missing out on, right? So all you see is like this one shitty picture, and whether or not you think that person's going to like be a good match for you, instead of exchanging like energy and pheromones that we know are like, there's like this weird X factor that comes to like, I have no idea why I'm attracted to this person, but I am. They've done like that t-shirt test, right? Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the t-shirt test, right?
They responded favorably to a guy that had a certain odor.
Right, yeah.
Oh, and they were so they had dudes run on a treadmill and then they put their shirts in a jar and then had women smell them without knowing what it was. And if they were related, it smelled bad.
Yeah, like women always sought like the most biodiverse candidate, essentially. So if like the genetics were too similar, like she would kind of be repulsed by that. So all of this is like really important when it comes to seeking a mate. So if you're asking like, here's this survey, what do you want? It's almost like if you go to one of those like teddy bear shops and you're like making the perfect teddy bear. Like of course you're gonna want to pick like all the best things for it, but
the scary part is they're completely unaware how rare the guy is.
Right, and I guess
and because they tend to use their own anecdotal experiences, like, well, I've been around so many millionaires because like I'm hot, so like there's plenty of them, and they really do think that because what ends up happening with like mildly attractive to very attractive women is they go to these major cities, Miami, New York, LA, etc. There's an abundance of these successful men, and they're like, I'm around these guys all the time because I get invited on yachts, and they don't understand that this is still a minority of men. But this goes to show what I've said before: 90% plus of men are invisible to women.
Well, so again, like I think a lot of women are saying that they want these things, but when they actually step out into the real world, they're probably finding guys that are missing most of the things that they said that they wanted, like, and they are actually genuinely attracted to them. So again, I think like this is the one like part where I'll agree, like women don't know what they want, and they're saying something totally different. And then when it actually comes to coupling up, they're going to find someone that they're genuinely attracted to, so that he's not going to have to like make those 1% marks for them to like be a pair.
Yeah, but okay, let's say he doesn't have the money, but he's extremely good looking. Like he's got to. The point is that he has to have something, right, to be able to get her. If you're deficient, okay, let's say you're a brokey, you don't got money, but you're extremely handsome and tall. Well, some women will deal with that for a period of time, right? Or let's say you have a lot of money, but you're ugly and weird. Some women will deal with that for a period of time. But if you're deficient, right? Let's say you got one amplifier that's really good and you rely on that. Cool, but you're going to be deficient somewhere else, and that's going to come back to bite you in the ass. You're a good-looking guy with no money. It's going to be tough for you to keep a girl long term. You're going to lose your chick to some simp. Let's say you're a guy that has a lot of money, but you're ugly. You're probably not going to get laid, and she might cheat on you. So like, it's very important for guys. Like, if you want to get the best of your woman, you got to have everything. Well, sometimes which is very difficult to find.
Sometimes a dude will make a girl laugh, and he'll be okay looking and like. But he's got potential. She sees the humor in him. Is like, you could be something. And so she'll go with them and she'll support him, especially for young people. You're dating for potential a lot of times.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, it's always, what I've realized is like, the hotter the girl, the more selective she is, and the more, she for some odd reason, these hot girls all date the same small percentage of guys. Like, it depends on the girl. But like, I think the main takeaway here is that there just simply aren't enough mates for the women based on their standards.
Elon has 12 kids.
On paper that we know of. Yeah, I want more. So, Myron, you said it's a problem that women tend towards this top 0.1%, and then Candace, you kind of said, yeah, it is a problem. There's not enough of them, indicating that there should be more successful, or the solution to the problem might be if there were more men that were in that upper bracket, that it became like the top 3% of men or top 9% of men. And is there like a middle ground here where women don't really have to, maybe they need to loosen their standards a little, let go of the resume before they go out there?
Yeah, I think so. It's like if you have a birth plan, right? Like there's these neurotic women that before having a child, they have like this 3-page birth plan, and it's got to like hit all of these marks. And you're like, once you get out there, like you are throwing everything to the wind, and you just have to be present. I think it's the same thing with dating. If you're going out there with like this checklist, that's not romantic, that's not sexy, that's not how you find like a long-term partnership at all. I think that's kind of delusional. So I think the solution, it's like there's going to be a lot of elements. One is like men do need to self-improve. They constantly need to be improving like themselves and their station in whatever capacity that they can. It's also women to kind of get a grip and saying like, what the fuck does 6 foot matter? Like, why is that something that you're capping off at 6 foot? That's insane, because if you're going to do that, then guys should have like a weight limit. So like if you kind of look at both of those things, it's weird.
How about we just pass a law?
Women aren't.
How about
like
here's a solution. The U.S. can just pass a law that says women aren't allowed to get paid more than $50,000 a year. Boom, problem solved.
You think that's a solution? Like, you
No,
really
I'm
think
kidding.
that's a solution?
Always the politician.
I was kidding. The argument largely, there was this really funny article in the New York Post. Actually, let me try and find it.
Well, I mean, that might be a viable option, man. Like a lot of women, the feminism has really ruined things for a lot of women, man, is because they pursue a career instead of a family, and it just their priorities are mixed up.
Sounds like
Look
communism.
at this story from 2019. I remember when the story dropped, and I recorded a segment on it. Women are struggling to find men who make as much money as they do.
Is this the Cornell study?
No, they interviewed women.
Okay.
and
It's Cornell.
And
It's Cornell right up at the top.
It's really
We
fascinating.
talked about this the first time we ever came on. This is a good story, yeah.
So what's fascinating here is, like, I tried to break it down. This is 6 years ago, right? This 38-year-old woman, she's like a nurse or whatever, nurse practitioner, and she said that she's not looking to like meet the craziest guy in the world, like the best guy. She just wants a guy who's like on her level. And my point was really simple. I'm like, lady, with all due respect, a 38-year-old man who's making $50,000 a year can get a 24-year-old woman. He doesn't need to settle for a 38-year-old woman, and he's not attracted to a 38-year-old woman. So they're wondering why, and it's patent. It's really obvious to anybody who studies dating and human coupling. So it's kind of funny that from this feminist perspective, written by a woman, they're like, why can't women find men their own age?
I don't think most 54-year-old men are getting a 20-year-old again, because most.
No, 38.
Oh, no, well, you were the example. You were saying like, I'm sorry, 38.
A 38-year-old woman wants to find a 38-year-old man, but who makes 50 grand a year.
Well, I
a
think
38-year-old man who makes 50 grand a year is going to go date a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah, 30 maybe, not in like the 20s.
You get 20.
The typical age gap is about 5 to 8 years. The most successful relationships are about 5 years. Yes, there are always outliers, and there are huge age gaps. 3 of my girlfriends have like a 20+ age gap with the guy.
I think the
that they're
bigger
with.
problem here is like he's saying these feminists are writing these articles trying to like figure out why can't I find a guy? And
shocked
that goes
by
back,
it.
And this goes back to what I said earlier at the top of the show. Men have to understand women to attract them. Women don't have to understand men to attract them. I can't tell you how many times I bring women on the show and I'm like, well, give me something that's redeeming about you. Oh, I make money. I'm successful. I'm a strong and independent woman. And I'm like,
Guys
you don't
don't
give a shit
care.
about that.
Yeah.
Men give zero care about a woman's ability to provision and provide. As a matter of fact, the more money he makes, the less he cares about it.
Yeah, it's just absolutely
But they have
fascinating.
no clue, dude.
Again,
They have no clue.
with this study, it's absolutely fascinating that women were like, we have just discovered this strange phenomenon, and every single guy everywhere is like, okay. Like,
But it goes to what I'm
describing
saying.
daily dating.
Like women, like it's not until they get older later in life they don't know what men want. This is why you got a feminist over here saying like, I'm 38 and make 150K per year. Why can't I find a guy? Because they're using the male metric of success on men, and men don't want to date themselves. They want to date a younger, more attractive woman. The things we look for in women have nothing to do with your career. But we've lied to women and told them, get a career. That's going to help you find a guy. Not really. It actually will set you back.
Why-
as a
The
woman?
filter too is kind of screwed up though too, because I think a lot of women just associate like providing financially. Like if you can't provide a paycheck, you're kind of useless. And I don't subscribe to that. I've got 2 little boys. I don't want them to think like their only worth is like how much money they bring in. So if she's like, I'm automatically filtering any man that doesn't make as much as me if she's making a lot of money.
But that's the reality though. Like you're
Bro.
as a man, like unfortunately, like that is the main metric you're judged by.
Let me read
shouldn't
this.
be,
Let
though.
me read this. It says the 38-year-old Upper East Sider stresses that she's not looking for anything outrageous, safety and security as far as finances go, but she's still coming up empty on dates. She says it's because the men she goes out with don't feel the innate push to succeed that she does. I think for years they've always just taken their role in society for granted, and I think they're just getting lazy culturally. I want to stress, this woman who is 38
She's not even hot.
and she can't find a guy, and what does she do? I
Below
want
average,
to tell you guys a story that maybe you've never heard.
She's very below
one,
average.
One day, a fox was walking through a field when it came upon some grapes that were hanging down from a vine on a tree. And the fox said those grapes looked mighty tasty and jumped in the air but failed to reach them. After struggling for several minutes, it said, the grapes are probably sour anyway. I'm pretty sure every single human being in this country knows the story of sour grapes and what it means. It means this lady cannot attain a man of status and value, so she says, guys are lazy. That's the real problem.
Yeah. But it goes back to what I was saying with the female hubris, where they don't feel they need to understand men. If she understood men, she would have known that, well, I just don't qualify for a lot of guys because I'm too old, right? And here's the other thing too, the elephant in the room, because I've dealt with this too. Women that are hyper successful, women that are, in a professional field where they make a lot of money, they tend to have a lot of masculine traits. They're simply annoying. They want to argue with you. They want to challenge your masculinity all the time, your authority. And it's like, dude, I didn't make this money to become the guy that I am to argue with a bitch. Like, no, thank you. Get the fuck out of here, right? And the thing is the more status and money a man has, the more likely he is to be honest with what he wants, and the less he's willing to tolerate fuckery from women. And successful women like this are kind of, they're like the bane of a successful guy's existence because they're annoying. They simply are.
I think it's funny
That's
that
why they're successful.
she keeps bumping into these guys who are 38 and not successful and lazy. And it's like, lady, it's because the guys who are successful aren't going to date you.
Boom.
Not because there's another fable. It's the fable of the guy who smelled shit everywhere and forgot to look at his shoe.
Yeah, it's just You know, and I'll be honest with you, like this girl, she's in New York City. Like this girl's below average. Like there's a bunch of young, attractive women in New York City, right? She's in a competitive sexual marketplace. She's a professional making a lot of money. So she's already lost, you know, access to a majority of men. So it
but
I
yeah,
gotta know.
this is
I gotta
the crazy
follow
thing,
up on
too.
this girl. This
But-
is 6 years ago. I wonder if she's married now.
But
Look
here's
her
the
up. Her name's right there.
yeah. Here's the crazy thing though.
Send her a DM.
Morgan
If there's a
Jordan.
guy who is 38 and he is trying to have a relationship, strong probability he's thinking it's time to have a family and settle down, have some kids, and he's not going to ask a 38-year-old woman to do that.
Unless she's super hot and totally gets him, man. Every once in a while, because women can have babies
Ian,
until they're late 40s.
You are wrong. You are completely wrong.
No, I'm not. I'm single and
completely-
dating. I know
you are-
exactly
you are-
what attracts me.
Okay,
It's not
great.
always age,
Ian,
dude.
You are an anecdote. 35-year-old women who get pregnant, it's called a geriatric pregnancy, and the risks for preeclampsia and other disorders are extremely high.
Yeah, but I'd rather have a
And women
woman
need to know
that
these things.
synchronizes with me that's 36 than some idiot that's 26 that doesn't get me, that is super hot, great hips. Like, I'm not just in it for some baby and walk away.
You are
Like,
talking
I need a
about
companion.
yourself. You're talking about yourself because you are centering the universe around yourself.
I'm just saying, not
We are
all
talking
guys are
about-
obsessed with age.
And once again, you are centering everything on yourself because the point is this is a study analyzing trends in dating, and the average guy is not going to want to have a family with a woman who is only going to be able to have one kid, if that, and it's going to be a risky pregnancy with a lot of medication and complication potentials.
Was the study saying that demographic of women is having a hard time? Like there's just like a surplus of 38-year-old women that can't match?
I don't know.
What was the study?
Let's see. I don't know. The more highly educated women are marrying down.
Okay.
But I think this trends towards a woman who is more highly educated is probably going to be a bit older for those reasons.
But what's marrying down, because most men aren't going to university anymore either. So is that considered part of marrying down? Because I know.
Sorry, real quick. They do mention 26-year-olds, 28-year-olds.
Okay, so
You scroll up a little bit. I want to see her name. I want to write it down.
are they looking at marrying down though, like income, education level?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, but men aren't going to school anymore, and then I don't think they count trade school in that. They don't count entrepreneurs in that, right? So
It's not completely wrong when they say most men. She says most. A 32-year-old said most men I encounter underemployed. They can't seem to make a living themselves.
underemployed. Okay.
Wildly in debt. I don't completely disagree with that, but the issue. My point is this. While certainly for the individual who is underemployed, struggling, it is a problem, for human coupling and society as a whole, none of this matters. If there's only 10 men in the country who are super successful and running, and everyone else is a blob that can't work, those guys are going to have babies. Elon's going to have 12 of them. Those 12 kids are going to grow up with just better chances of success. That's literally how coupling works. There's going to be an ebb and a flow to this stuff. There you go.
I don't think that girl got married. I can't find all the data, but it's Gina Theobald.
Well, but this is the point, man. Society keeps telling women. Do you guys remember that magazine cover of the woman who was like, "I froze my egg so I can have it all"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a horror story. They talk about rom-coms, like chick flicks. You want to make a chick flick horror story? You make this movie. She froze her eggs, got put on a magazine cover,
How much did she pay? Probably tens of thousands.
and then
Probably
several years later, when she said she wanted to have kids, all of her eggs were shattered and destroyed. And she said she screamed like a wild animal. She will never be a mother.
Yeah.
I'm like, feminism. Here's an important thing that women need to understand. The stories you are getting in the press about how you should freeze your eggs and do these things are largely written by aging women with no families. Their worldview is predicated upon the fact that they are living the life, and in their mind, they're like, you can do it too. Women who have families and have found success and are happy with their lives are not working for the New York Post or Glamour writing these articles.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Sex and the City lifestyle that they sell. Like, you can do this and you can put it off, right? The Sheryl Sandberg standard, where it's like, go to college, have your fun with the bad boys. Right before you hit your epiphany phase, 29, 30, whatever it may be, you'll be able to find a guy and consolidate. And the reality is, it's just, that's going to be very difficult to do. You're basically trying to throw a Hail Mary.
Do you think that society is gearing back towards polyamory again? Because, like you said, Elon has 12 kids.
No.
And everyone
What do you
looks
mean,
up to.
polygamy?
Yeah. Well,
polygamy.
polygamy, maybe not
No,
necessarily
no, no.
marriage
Polyamory
to
is
multiple
everything is
women.
the other way around.
Polygamy is
just-
marriage. Polygamy is when you marry multiple women.
But men
polyamory is
having
when you're
multiple
banging.
partners, female partners, and impregnating multiple women, the hyper successful men, like the dating apps have kind of made it functionally possible. And it is what we used to be like. Like you said, only 20% of societies were ever monogamous up to this point. and we need more kids. And so a lot of people think we need to repopulate faster.
Dude, this is terrifying. I got the story from the National Post from 2018. Cruel twist of fate for a single woman who froze her eggs in her 30s to free her career. At 45, with no sign of Mr. Right, she unfroze 11 eggs and selected a sperm donor. What happened? The eggs were all unviable. She spent 20 grand to do it, 19,000. In early 2017, with her 45th birthday looming and no sign of Mr. Right, she unfroze them. 2 eggs failed to survive the thawing process. 3 more failed to fertilize. That left 6 embryos, of which 5 appeared to be abnormal. The last one was implanted on the morning of March 7th. She got the devastating news. It had failed. That's it. You will never be a mother. Billions of years of human coupling and life and evolution ends with you. And I don't mean to be mean to this lady, but I hope this is a warning to everyone that, like, you know, it's fascinating what they're doing with these young kids and sterilizing and mutilating them. When I was a kid, when I was 16, my mom was like, make sure you don't screw your credit up. And I was like, what do I need that for? And she goes, to buy a house. And I'm like, I'm never going to buy a house. I don't care. And I'm like, looking at the economy, I'm looking at the stories. I'm like, how am I going to buy a house? I own a house now. You know what I mean? Like, you are dumb when you are young, but 30 is not young. 30 is... You're getting old, man.
But they've been lied to their whole lives. Like a 30-year-old, so if you're talking about a millennial, like we have been sold, like, you know, Spice Girls, girl power, you can have it all. And then we're told that it's not fair, that we have to kind of choose family or career. Like you can be your own man. And if men can do it, you can do it bleeding, right? Like these are the stories that we were told. So I don't blame her, because she thought, and most women today think that egg freezing works. They have no idea that the success rate is wildly low. It's super expensive. It's a huge medical procedure to do all of it. And the unfortunate truth is you do have to pick, right? It's not to say you can't have a job or work outside of the home, but like your career is going to take a massive hit if you choose to be a mom. So if you know that you want to be a parent at some point, you have to take that into consideration and prioritize it at some point and be the one that bites the bullet, because guess what? The guy can't carry the baby and the guy's not breastfeeding.
Well, the other thing too I want to say, right? I always have this phrase. I say, when you lie, women buy. There's a reason why advertisers target women specifically when they run their ads. There was this famous Gillette commercial back from like 2019, 2020, the toxic masculinity one. Right. And I use that as an example all the time, that marketing is almost always pushed towards women, even if it's a male product, because they understand that women are the ones that are probably going to buy these razors. So women are more impressionable. They're easier to control. They're easier to manipulate. They're communitarian by nature. They find strength in numbers. So they're the better target demographic for advertisers. So when they go ahead and have this, you know, you can do this, you can do anything a man can do, or some of the things that you're alluding to, women tend to buy that hook, line, and sinker because it sounds good, and you know, it's not until it's too late that they find out it was a lie.
I'll tell you guys a secret. It's not really a secret, but in the 2010s, largely with Facebook, a lot of these media companies like BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, etc., they were making their bread and butter by getting viral articles on Facebook. Go talk to any marketing person, and they'll tell you 2 things. First, I'll ask you guys, which emotion generates the most shares of content? Do you guys know?
I would say rage, personally.
Yeah, I was gonna say anger.
Rage, anger.
Yeah,
Anger generates more shares, which means more views to your articles. And then obviously, which demographic is most likely to share an article?
Women.
By far.
And
with rage.
And what demographic of women?
White women.
White, middle-aged, liberal women who are angry share more than anybody else. So people often talk about the rise of wokeness and stuff, and I tell you it's social
also
media.
Get the most prescription medication.
Sure does, and this is probably why.
Yeah, talking about lower orgasm rates.
And I talked specifically to marketing guys at these companies, and they said our marketing strategy is predominantly geared towards producing articles and headlines that middle-aged liberal women will share, and it's for one reason. If we make an article that will be shared by a conservative man, the rate at which they share it is substantially lower, meaning the cost per share is higher. So when we're looking at maximizing viewership, we can spend $1 to get 1,000 liberal women to share an article, or we can spend $1 to get 27 conservative men to share an article. We're going to go towards maximizing viewership to sell product. We don't care about the politics. We just want to move articles. That's what built up all these companies, and that's why a lot of these companies went super far left.
Makes sense. I mean, yeah. You know, I got an interesting story here, like with a friend. So I got a friend. He's a dating coach, right? And he coaches both men and women. And I find it amazing where when he coaches the men, he has to be brutally honest. You're fat. You're a loser. You need to get some more money. You need to stop being a soft, whatever. He's got to be extremely pragmatic and honest with why the guy is failing. But with the women, and he doesn't have to tone police himself with how he speaks to them and tell them what it is. With the women, he has to almost like, he has to focus more on how he conveys the message versus the message. And the women respond better to like lies. And he was like, holy shit, this is very annoying. But it's incredible how, if you look at male dating coaches and female dating coaches, coaches that like deal with women is what I mean. They have to water down their message to be able to get it across because women have such a filter for the way information is conveyed versus with men. It's like they don't care. It's like, give me the facts.
Let's talk about the workplace.
Super important.
Let's talk about the workplace. I've been in these meetings where you have a pitch meeting on, say, documentaries. I've been in the situation, and you've got 7 guys and 3 women, and then one guy will say, one of the ideas I was looking at is this, and they'll go, I don't think that's going to fly. Let's not go with that one. What else do you got? And the guy says, "Okay." Do you know what the women do? After the meeting's over, they go, the only reason they shot my idea down is because I'm a woman. And I'm like, and I'm sitting there going like, they shot down Bill's idea. And they were like, yeah, but whenever I have an idea, they say it's bad. And I'm like, Bill presented 10 pitches in the past week and they all got shot down. Why do I keep hearing this trope where it's like women are saying I don't know what your evidence is for that. And I'm like, it's funny to me that on average in these meetings I've been to, guys get rejected 90% of the time, and I think this correlates largely with dating.
100%.
Guys know that when they go out, actually, let's do this. You ever watch King of the Hill?
Yes.
So Hank Hill, old show by the way, is Bobby is a chubby little kid and they can't figure it out. So he knows Boomhauer is really good with the ladies, and he goes, "Hey, Boomhauer, can you teach Bobby how to pitch woo?" And Bobby's like, "Yeah, man, I'll help Bobby get him out and get some skills." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then he brings Bobby to a shoe store, and he goes, "All right, now, Bobby, you gonna watch me? Gonna pick up some women, huh?" Then he walks up to him and he goes, "Damn, girl, looking pretty good. Why don't you give me that number? We're gonna hang out sometime." And then she slaps him. Then he turns around and goes to another woman, "Damn, girl, looking pretty good. Why don't you give me that number? We're gonna hang out sometime." And then she shakes her head, and then after like 15 women, he walks up to Bobby and he goes, "Yeah, look at that, Bobby, a phone number." And then Bobby's like, "Is that your secret, Mr. Boomhauer? You just asked every woman?" He goes, "Shh, man, secret, man. Oh, don't tell anybody." Guys get rejected 300 times before they finally get one.
Yep,
Women are used to never getting rejected. Look at dating apps. How do men use dating apps? They swipe right on every single woman and then message as many as they can and cross their fingers. Women open the app, go to their messages, and just look through any guy they decide they want to talk to.
Yeah.
Bring that into a work environment, and a woman hears no for the first time, and she's like, "It's because I'm a woman."
Yeah, and that's 100% true because with women, they rarely get rejected in their life, especially if they're attractive. So for them, it's like a huge insult. And then also the other reason why women react to rejection so poorly is because they have like this biological instinct. Like if I'm being rejected, I'm being ostracized from the group. If I'm being ostracized from the group, that means I can't survive because we know women need strength in numbers in men to help them, survive in hunter-gatherer days. So they react very poorly to rejection, and they're not used to it, man, especially a pretty girl. Men, on the other hand, we get rejected all day. We're used to it. So for us, it's just another day in office.
I'll play like 10 seconds of this.
Yeah, that's funny.
Where's the audio? We have no audio? There's no audio coming in? Can I hear it? I can't hear anything.
Bed on my bed. I'm talking about don't give me them digits, man.
Why don't you go home and take another cologne bath?
You just got blown off 3 times.
Yeah, I don't know. So?
Ow, it doesn't fit.
Yeah, man, and maybe I don't show you something in on size boom.
Oh, you don't work here. Get away from my feet.
He's still smiling, looking around. He's unfazed.
That perfectly encapsulates the masculine experience where trial and error, taking L's, getting the lumps and bruises, figuring it out, refining your strategy, and then coming back to the marketplace stronger. Because for men, we have to get rejected. We got to go through the trials and tribulations. For women, it doesn't work that way, man. That's why they hate rejection.
See, and what I see a lot now too, though, is guys that don't want to deal with that, though. So it's almost them complaining like, "Oh, you don't know how hard it is," or I have like guys complaining about anxiety. I can't imagine. I would be single for the rest of my life if I had to approach a man. It just wouldn't happen. I would just die by myself. So I do appreciate the effort that like men have to go through to like pair bond. But what I see, especially with the younger guys, is like, I'm just not gonna do it. I have anxiety. It's too much. What if she says no? It's like, get the fuck over it.
No. I tell those guys, no, stop. Just don't even bother. Don't try. Like if you're so weak that you can't figure it out, you can't solve your problems, then this is evolution. Have a nice day.
Oh my gosh.
Well, hey, maybe guys need to hear a hard lesson.
Yeah, but sometimes species will evolve into extinction if you don't handle it properly.
If you are sitting around saying it's too hard and I can't do it, it's true. It was Harry Truman who said, "Whether you believe you can or can't, you are right."
But you got to
So-
teach the kids. They got to just
yes,
deal
of
with
course.
rejection.
I'm talking about a 25-year-old guy who's overweight, can't find work, can't get a woman, and he's like, I don't know what to do, and it's too hard. I'm not going to try. Yeah. The only thing that matters, it doesn't matter if you're a failure right now. It doesn't matter if you're a loser right now. It doesn't matter if you're ugly. It doesn't matter if you're overweight. It doesn't matter if you're not working. All that matters is whether you say, I will succeed or I will not even bother. And if your mentality is, I don't even want to try anymore, I say thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, and the other, survival of the fittest. And the other thing, too, I think people need to also understand the best pickup artists in the world, the best guys with women, they only close about 10%.
Actually, was that Ford who said that?
World-class guys are closing 7 to 10% that teach this.
No way.
Yeah.
I had never.
That's
it was Ford. I said Truman. It was Ford.
Volume is like, when it comes to like dealing with women, right? Because I did a whole like presentation on this one time. Like, if you want to get the most girls, this is what you got to do. Half the game is volume, getting in leads, because women are fickle. Yeah, literally sales. Yeah, you got to get leads, whether it's online dating, cold approach, in the daytime, nighttime, whatever it may be. Like, women are fickle, and depending on how you meet them, like, they might just reject you off rip. So
Yo,
it's
watch
you
that.
have to just be able to move on quickly.
Watch that Boomhauer clip.
If you want to get the most women, but I think some guys want to get one woman.
That's the problem, though. When you have this one-itis, you have to play the game of volume, because if you try to sit there and have one-itis and go after one girl, like, what ends up happening is you actually become less attractive, because you're going to display needy behaviors when you go after that one girl. That's why it's so important to have, like, spread it out, have multiple women, because you naturally have an abundance mindset. That makes you more
I would be concerned that there would be an addiction to the chase. Once you find her among 7 or 8 other women, you're like, well, maybe she's got not quite. I'm going to keep looking, and you passed by her.
Yeah, look, the problem is, especially when we're looking at an article where it's a 38-year-old woman trying to find a 38-year-old guy. Dude, your life, 38 is you're at middle age. Like, for life expectancy is in your mid to late 70s. The issue for most Americans that they're going to run into, of which there is no cure, is that your best chances for a relationship are at a very, very young age. That's why people used to get married when they were like 18. Men and women.
I think for men,
if you're a guy and you are from the same, look, in the 1800s, and even going back when you're talking about polyamory in the way olden days, most people lived on a farm plot. They never left. 90% of their time was wake up, take care of the animals, go to sleep. Rarely would they go to town. Rarely would they go to the marketplace. The post would arrive by carriage, chariot, or horse. Almost never. And so you were growing up, and your life was the same as your grandparents, was the same as their grandparents for hundreds of years. You know what's nuts? It took hundreds of years to invent the cartridge, because I was reading about gun history, and it's like, we developed gunpowder and muskets, and for like 400 years, it was muzzle-loaded muskets. Like, not a single person was like, maybe I can rifle this, and it'll be more. It just took hundreds of years. So everybody's life was the exact same. Women knew exactly what they wanted. They knew what they wanted to be. Nothing was different. Now the problem is, if you grew up in a society where your life was the exact same as someone else's, your interests and worldview are aligned, it's going to be very easy for you. Especially religious, because a woman's going to be like, I have to be a good steward of the earth. I have to be submissive before God. That means I can't do these things. I can't do that thing. I need to be fruitful and multiply. And the guy is going to say, I must do the exact same things. They're going to get together, and their duty is to a bigger picture. Now what's happening is a 25-year-old guy meets a 24-yeard wold She's from California, where she grew up surfing. He's from Connecticut, where he grew up, shrimping or crabbing or whatever, not shrimping, lobstering. There we go. Sorry. Totally different worldview, totally different industries, totally different religions, totally different moral structures, and they do. And that's the. But
maybe they don't. But whatever.
No. But that is my point. There's one thing they're like, we have this in common. We can go on boats. And then 3 years later, they're like, this is not working. I don't want to be with you. Why? Because their moral worldview and approach to everything was dramatically different from each other. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it was substantially easier when people grew up in the same area doing very similar things.
It's like culture shock, but on a microcosm.
I want to say this, so because the thing is, when you're talking about the one-itis, the thing that makes you attractive as a guy is being like outcome independent, and you only get that when you're talking to a lot of women, where they're like, okay, this guy's around chicks, and that actually makes you more attractive. Now, will you lose some leads doing that? Potentially. I know guys that put chicks in spreadsheets and whatever, but I think the important thing to take away from here is that it's a very concerted effort to be good with women as a man. Especially if you're not a natural. You got to learn this stuff and everything else like that. And then going back to the thing with you, like, I think with men, the things that make us attractive take time to accumulate. Now, I know you're talking about the olden days where arranged marriages were a thing and you grew up in a farm and everything else. That's true. But I'll say in today's day and age, like, women really need to consolidate on a guy as early as they can. Versus for men, with women having higher standards, you probably have to stave off marriage or a serious relationship until you have certain things in order.
Someone in the chat said, "Not everything is a." This is K Noel. Not everything is a gun analogy or a farm analogy. Hey, you know my priorities.
So,
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, look, whether you can or can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And all that really matters is for anybody listening to this or whatever, as it pertains to, I know that like the bigger question was about legalizing porn and all that stuff. That's more to do with like a moral society. But as for the dating stuff, if a guy decides he can't and he doesn't get involved, doesn't matter because some other guy's gonna have a kid with this lady, and only the most successful survive and procreate.
I think there's a fear of, I like this girl because my longest relationship was with a girl that I'd known for a couple of years, and we were friends, and then we started dating, and it was very, very natural, and we were great friends. So there's this great base. Other relationships have been shorter. They started off with sex. So like, but had I been afraid to approach the girl that I was friends with, I didn't want to ruin the friendship. I'm like, if I try and take this to the next level and she's not comfortable with it, we may never talk again, and that could be very, very frightening. But in reality, it was worth taking the risk, and I don't think it gets as weird as you think it's going to get.
I've never existed in that mindset.
Being scared of losing a friendship.
That friendship does. It's a weird thing to me that like friendship. I don't know, that concept seems foreign to me. Like,
I think women are useless friends, if I'm gonna be honest.
Well, that's the idea. Is like, look,
As
as a man, if you desire something, you pursue it, and if you don't, you don't. So this idea that's like, oh, but I will lose this friendship. It's like, look, if there's a one I'm interested in, I'm gonna pursue that, and if she's not interested, then there is an impasse. We both want something from each other that is unattainable. This is the most annoying thing about the friend zone argument, where guys are like, I'm friend zoned, and women get offended that men don't want to be friends with them. And I'm like, the man wants from you love and a relationship you don't want to provide. You want from him companionship he doesn't want to provide. It's a mutual exchange that cannot occur, so both parties separate. Thank you and have a nice day. Why are you mad about it?
But here's the difference. Most guys are too dumb to realize that they're giving the woman value while not getting anything back, because she's getting boyfriend energy. She's getting someone that she can trust. She's getting, in some cases where you might pay to hang out with her, where you guys get like dinner or whatever, like she's getting all the boyfriend energy while you're not getting what you want. And too many guys are okay with sitting in that friend zone getting used.
And these women don't realize it, but these guys who are saying, okay, I'll be in the friend zone, are secretly hoping they're not going to be in the friend zone.
Yeah.
Like it's there's no mutual exchange there. And I don't it's like I hear from all these like in the dating scene, like women will be like, it's BS. He won't be my friend. Why would you do this to me? And it's simple. The guy should just say, with all due respect, you want from me and I want from you, but we want different things. So we're not going to hang out, but we can't be friends. No, we can't. Thank you and have a nice day. I'm not mad at you. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make sense because men and women are just different. Like most women aren't going to be able to bond or identify with you on certain things. So it's like, this might come off as, I guess, rash, but like women are useless friends for you as a guy. Like you're almost always going to be giving way more value than she does.
Well, there's the girlfriend, you get one.
Ian, sorry, I had to do this. I have a real hard stop.
God, we could do this for hours.
I got to go to the dentist.
Awesome.
So this is like my follow-up. They have to, do more stuff. So I have to stop now because we're leaving soon. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Go to timcastpremium.com, sign up for Rumble Premium for all of our exclusive stuff. Yesterday's Green Room episode, rumble.com/timcastirl. Look at the video. Nate Kane talking about how he blew the whistle on Hillary Clinton. Someone tried poisoning him. Someone tried taking the lug nuts off his tire. He believes someone was trying to kill him. It's a crazy story, so definitely check that one out. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We do got to go quick. Myron, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, check me out Monday through Friday, Myron Gaines X, my YouTube channel, and on Rumble. The Debrief is political cultural commentary, 5 p.m. every Monday through Friday. Myron Gaines X.
Candace Horbacz. You can go to chattingwithcandace.com. It's got my podcast and all my socials.
I'm at Ian Crossland, and someone posted in chat, OnlyFans. So maybe there'll be a new website. Maybe we could do a conversation again and for a longer.
They're always good.
Yeah,
always good.
This is it. The culture. This is like one of the emotional center of the culture war. So happy to be here. Thanks for having us, Tim.
All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all tonight on Timcast IRL.